Good morning, all. Welcome to welcome to public administration optional classes. So, how many of you guys have already joined? How many of you are thinking of joining, like kind of demo class? Others mostly are like thinking, okay, fine. No, it's fine. I understand. See, what I want to tell is today we will not be directly dealing with what the chapters, topics, all those things. I'll first try to give a kind of overall brief about what this optional actually is about, what kind of questions do they ask, or first of all, what are the topics that we'll be dealing with under this particular optional. Those aspects I'll be covering today, because a lot of students have those doubts, even though broadly I've told it in orientation. I mean, we have already discussed that, but still, fine. Yeah, see, any idea what do you mean by in general administration? Remember, they keep using the words like manage. OGP2, okay, PSAL, huh? Yeah, fine, go on. Fine, so in general, obviously everybody knows about, or at least heard about, what do you mean by administration? What is administration, what is management, any idea differences? Policies into outcomes, okay, fine. Any other things then? What is management then? Remember, you keep using those words, management, administration, organization, all of them we keep using. Any small differences, just try to, small difference. Because this is how the overall, what do you call this, optional will deal with. See, in general, when you say administration or management, common terms, if you take like let's say GS or anything like that, we don't actually differentiate there. Everything is same. In GS, administration is also same, management is also same. But that is not the case in optional. In optional, what we try to do is, we try to differentiate them also. In general, actually administration means what they consider, what we consider in the optional is that the decision making process at the top level. That's why look at it, Indian Administrative Service. That means what? Those people who are largely in charge of taking the decisions. But when you say taking the decisions, obviously what you logically think, will you be at the lower level, will you be at the top level, or at least mid to top levels you will be there. That's why it is Indian Administrative Service. Means those who are in charge of taking the decisions. Fine. Sir, what kind of decisions? For example, what kind of organization we should have? What should be the goal of the organization? What kind of employees should we recruit? Everything they will decide. Organization means what? Organization means you take it as any kind of institution. For example, let's say, what do you call as this, police department as a whole if we take, that is an organization. Fine, if you take for example, government of India as a whole is also an organization. But within that, imagine how many ministries are there. Ministry of Finance, Defense, Home, this, that, everything you have to take separate. Niti Ayog, an organization. Planning Commission, organization. Election Commission, organization. UPSC, organization. So that is organization. Overall you can take it as what kind of an institution. Now what is administration then? Within an organization, what kind of employees should be there? What should the organization do? What should be the goals of this organization? What kind of technology should they use? How should we recruit people to this organization? All those aspects are called as what? Administration. Understood? So in general, actually what do you mean by administration then? You are not talking about implementation directly here. What do they tell in general? Decision making aspects within an organization is considered as administration. Then what is organization as I told? Group of people who get together to do a particular task. For example, what? Let's say, for example, if anybody opens a company, obviously what is their goal? If it is an automobile company or if it is any company, everybody will have a goal. Remember, we keep telling like this. I'm just overall briefing. This is normally what we keep telling, M3. What is it? When you say organization, 3 M's are important. One is men. Men means what? Men means take it as what? Employees. Employees, people who are working for you. Machine. Machine means not necessarily machinery or anything. Take it as what? Technology. What are you using there? Materials. Materials means what? What all kind of materials are you using? It can be related to what? It can be related, what do you call as this, natural resources kind of a one, or anything. Overall that is called as material one. So all combinedly is called, you can also call it as what? Some people also use another word called as what? Money. Obviously in general you think, if you want to run an organization, imagine how much of financial resources you need. Now all together in general we call it as what? Organization. Understood? Institution, everything are different names. How is an organization run? The decision making is called as what? Administration. Now once they take the administration takes the decision, obviously you have to implement it. Imagine, let us say for example you take Ministry of Rural Development and Panchayat Raj. Minister and the top level secretaries, remember we tell, they are the part of administration, they will take the decision. Now, who will implement it? Imagine at your Gram Panchayat level, if you want to implement MG Narega, how many people will work? Gram Panchayat Secretary, Panchayat Development Officer, village accountants, village level worker, we call it as Gram Sevak, so many people work, including, you might have heard officers like BDO, Block Development Officer, as I told PDO, Panchayat Development Officer. They are all what? They are not taking any major decisions. What do? They implement whatever the top people have told you, you implement them. That is your role. So by definition then management means what? Those who are largely involved in not taking a decision. What are they involved in? Implementing a decision. Taking a decision means what in general? Administration. That's why it is, as I said, IAS, Indian Administrative Service. They take, when you get into that service, you are in charge of taking a lot of very, what do you call as important decisions at the mid and above that, secretary level kind of people. DC is a bit different. DC is a combination of so many things that we'll get to that later. Understood? And now the point is, look at the word public. Here public means what? You should not take it as people. Here public means you have to take it as what? Government. So that means public administration means what then? How the government is run, how the government takes decisions, how the government makes policies, how they get it implemented, all of those things combinedly you call it as what? Government related administration itself is public administration. Understood? Normal doubts which you have, normal students, I mean in the beginning you guys will keep having. So what is then the difference between this political science, I mean PSI and optional, PUB and optional? Normally there is always a confusion, because normally we will think that is also polity, this is also polity, because once you have what attended polity classes, you feel like that is also constitution, this is also, actually it is not like that. In political science they largely deal about what? Too much of theoretical concepts, like if you have heard, I mean if in case you have gone through the orientation kind of a one, what did Aristotle say, what is Plato say, what is Socrates say, so many what do you call this, very old kind of concepts, also they will start from there, because let's say 2000, 2500 years, 3000 years, logically you think, will you have whatever you are having now, will you have this level of population or this level of technology, resources? Imagine now how difficult is it to manage things. 2000, 2500 years back, managing was not so easy. Managing was relatively easy because it was not complicated, but concepts itself was not developed. See, today you have a concept called as democracy, you have a concept called as constitution, you have a concept called as, mostly I am assuming at least polity will have a fair idea, most of you guys, correct, right? At least polity more or less everybody would have attended, right? So federalism, parliamentary system, presidential system, which one, unitary system, imagine fundamental rights, DPSP, social contract theory, most important one, rights as a concept. Imagine how many things are there. Now 2500 years back, how will you have these concepts? Or let's say 3000 years back, how will you have these concepts? Whenever people started to get together, they started to live together, they started to develop these ideas. Okay, fine, because when you are moving kind of nomadic kind of event, imagine just ancient medieval recall, whatever they tell, Mesolithic, this, that, everything. When people are continuously moving, there is no concept of settlement, civilization, things. Where will you have those concepts? You will not even have those concepts. When did the concepts arise? When you started to stay at one place, started to live together, then the concept of, okay, now you have to stay together. If you want to stay together means you need someone to protect us. We all are group. If you take it as, okay, someone, whatever, based on whatever identity, it can be based on, I mean, of course, during that time, religion, everything would not have developed 3000 years back, whatever identity they had. Based on that, if they live together, okay, some identity based classification then you have to live together. That means what? You need someone to protect you. Remember in polity also we basically take basic concepts which are social contract theory. Remember what is basic social contract theory? Social contract theory, you might have heard scholars like Thomas Hobbes, Rousseau, all of them you have told, if you can recall, so that I will differentiate so that you get an idea. I'll overall provide broadly how it evolved, all those things I'll give a brief. See, this is social contract theory, which in the recent times we link it to scholars like who, if you can recall, actually in Pabad also would have briefly told. In the recent times we dedicate the theories to these people, Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Rousseau. Now what do they tell? Remember we use the word state of nature, means according to them, I mean these people talk about social contract theory, means how did the concept of a state evolve? Remember in polity we tell when you say state, what are the four components of state? Particular population, territory, government, sovereignty. Now this is actually social contract theory is the same. Social contract theory deals with how the concept of state evolved. How did it evolve? These people have spoken about it. Most importantly, it was started largely by whom? Thomas Hobbes, but then everybody have their own issues. I mean, their own kind of explanations, theories for it. Now, what do they tell? In simple term, what they tell is, originally in general, I am telling you, whatever these people tell 2500, 3000 years back, whenever, original state of nature was full of disturbance. State of nature means what? In general, society kind of a one. Let's say whatever group of people are there, you never know when someone will come and attack you. Because obviously there is no rule. See, today you have democracy, you have nation state, you have army, you have police, you have United Nations, you have so many things, you have international law. How do you think 3000 years back you will have all this? Where will you have? Obviously you will not have. When people started to live together, they started to realize that okay, you want to get out of this kind of disturbance. We need someone to protect us. Because you never know when someone comes and takes your life, takes your property. That is when the concept of king evolved. So what is the role of king? Then logical point, what is the role of king? To protect you, both from external threat. External means what? Someone else come from outside should not come and attack you. Internal, because imagine within people how many fights will happen. Maybe ego clashes, caste related, religion related, whatever difference related, food related. I am telling you very old ones. Both internal as well as external threats, you need protection. That role is king will do. Now then obviously if king has to do that role, if he wants to protect you from external threat, what he has to do then? He has, obviously what he has to do? He has to maintain an army. If he wants to maintain an army, what he should have? Money. Where will he generate money? You have to pay tax. If money concept is not evolved, I mean I am telling you very early, you also have to pay it in what? Kind. Kind means what? Whatever crops you are going, give a kind share of that crop, whatever, that depends. In some states it might be 1/6, somewhere it can be 1/4, 1/3, whatever, you have to give your share. Using that share, they will maintain the army. You can call it as police also. Police concept all came later. Earlier it was largely what, even in Indian context, we will discuss all these things. Even in Indian context, till British arrived, we did not have separate thing called as police. We only had what? Army. Army is army means both. Both means what? External protection, internal protection. Police kind of a concept, British is the one who gave it in Indian context. That will come to that later, that's a different chapter. That's not necessary, I will, over a period I will tell you that. Clear, that is how the concept of state evolved. I mean state in the sense king concept. King concept only whenever it started to become a little more, let's see, when large people started to get together gradually. Remember in Indian context they keep telling, what do you call as this, Janapadas. Gradually the area started to become more. So when remember the Mauryan Empire kind of a one, when Janapadas started to evolve, obviously the king concept became more broad. Fine. So all these things over a period of time became the concept of state. Even when king was ruling, that is also state only. State means, does not necessarily mean democracy. State can be a monarchy also, state can be a dictatorship also, state can be democracy also, presidential system also, parliamentary system also, federal, anything can be state. As long as they fulfill what? That four components. Are we in those four components? Are we mentioning something like election should be there, democracy should not necessary. Democracy means you should have that. State means not necessary. Now this all is not our core concern. This whatever I told you overall brief, we'll discuss it, we will also discuss, but this all concepts where you discuss in detail, political science, because there they'll talk about how the concept of state itself evolved. See, when you tell concept of king, I mean obviously imagine you remember Indian history, how long did you have kings? Till 1947 if you take, largely it was monarchy only, even though we call it as what? We tell that okay, Krishna Devaraya or let's say Cholas or let's say Mauryas or this that we keep telling, they also had a kind of democracy. Remember in ancient medieval they tell you during Buddha time we had a kind of republics, during Vedic era we had something called a Sabha, Samiti, which were a kind of democracy. All those examples we give, agreed. But largely in Indian history democracy means largely what? 1947 post only or 1950 post only. Whatever earlier it used to be there, maybe small kinds of, and because not just in India, everywhere it was same there. It was same, not India is not an exception, because that is how it had evolved. Because the right concepts itself were not there. Gradually what happened, the concept of rights, everything started to get very deep roots. Understood? Now again, why did the concept of state develop? See, earlier people were called as subjects. Now we are not subject, what are we? We are citizens. See, the word itself denotes a lot of differences. Subjects means what? Largely people who live under a monarch, king, or let's say for example feudal lord, all of them are called as subjects. So we means whatever our ancestors, everybody were there till British rule, they were not citizens. What are they largely? Subjects. When you say subjects, you are not electing your leader. What did we elect the British leaders? So, I mean whatever British were there, right from whatever Robert Clive to Lord Mountbatten, did we elect them or what? We have not chosen them. They'll keep continuing there. Did we elect our kings? Whatever you, right from any Mauryan era, you take till Mughal era. Did we elect Aurangzeb or Akbar or there is no concept of that. So subject means what then? Largely people living under a king rule, monarchy rule. Even you can say kind of dictatorship rule are all called as subjects. They will not elect their leader. They will not elect their ruler. You also will not have the power to what? Take them out of power also, you don't have the power. Your role is what then? Whatever they tell, you should listen. You will not have, when you say subject, there is no concept of democracy. There is no concept of rights. There is no concept of welfare state. Government is not responsible for your welfare. You take Mughal era, Delhi Sultanate era, at least largely if you take, it is not a welfare state. They are not responsible for your, means what? Welfare of the citizen, I mean, not citizens is the word, which one? Subjects. Absolutely have to reverse it in citizen. So citizen means what then? People living under a democracy are called as citizens. When you say citizens, that means automatically what you will have? You will have your rights. Remember in fundamental rights, imagine how depth we have discussed, that you will have a right. Understood? You will elect, citizens will elect their leaders. If they are not happy, what they can also do? Take them out of power. Welfare state and citizenship are all closely interlinked. When you say, I am a citizen of this country, that means what is the government responsible for? Government is responsible for your welfare. They should give you right from whatever, what do you call this, quality education to healthcare to nutrition to sanitation, everything government is responsible. Understood? See how this also we study here, but not in detail. The citizenship concept itself in detail you will study where? This is how the concepts used to evolve. Remember we kept on telling rights, generations of rights. If you can recall in polity we tell something like natural rights, human rights, fundamental rights, constitutional rights, legal rights, statutory rights. All of that also we study. But what we largely study is what? Largely from the Indian constitution perspective. But in political science as an optional, what they study in detail? About how the concept itself evolved. Means I am telling you they are mostly dealing with what? How all these concepts evolved right from 2000, 2500 years back kind of a one. But gradually what do we deal with? Let's imagine gradually empire started to become broad, big and all those things. People started to become more, what do you call it, this, the obligations of the people increased, democracy started to develop, welfare state started to develop, people are expecting a lot from you. That is when they realized that all these concepts are not useful or are useless unless you have a way to get the things done. See, whatever you have the concept, let's say welfare state, everything. Ultimately, when you say welfare state, what should people get? People should get good education, healthcare. If they want to if they want to get the good education or healthcare, who has to implement it then? Bureaucracy has to implement it. That is when they started to gradually realize that okay, all these concepts are largely theory. These are largely theory. In practice, what happens? What matters? How are you implementing a program? How are you implementing a scheme? That is where gradually, remember, when they'll tell you and we'll discuss again in your introduction chapter, 1887, we famously tell is the year of the birth of public administration. See, that doesn't mean that concept of civil service or bureaucracy evolved now. See, simple terms you imagine. Let's say for example, during Egyptian era, remember pyramids, all those things they construct. Or you take Kautilya era. We'll discuss Kautilya in Arthashastra itself talks about civil service, bureaucrats. Whenever the concept of a king was there, logical thing, do you think king will go and implement the things? Obviously what he needs? He needs lot of people who has to implement his ideas. That means the concept of civil service was very, very old also. Whenever the concept of king evolved, during that time itself the concept of civil service also evolved. But what is the loophole? There were no major theories about civil service, or in other words administration, because the major focus was not on administration for a long time. The major focus was not concepts like state, citizenship, democracy, rights. Those had taken a lot of priority. They were not thinking much about how to implement things. Understood? Gradually what happened after French Revolution happened, 1780s you can say, American Revolution. Remember we keep telling, gradually what happened, democracy started to become big. That is when they realized, okay, implementation is the biggest challenge. That's a very famous statement of Woodrow Wilson, that in US they started to realize by 1880s that it is very easy to make a constitution rather than to run a constitution. Means it is very easy to write things in the book. What is the most important thing? How will you get it implemented? See, US got the constitution in 1787 itself. Almost look at exactly how many years? 100 years. By then, during this time, they used to have something called as spoils system in US. Spoils system means in simple terms, have you heard spoils of war? What do you mean by spoils of war in simple terms? Spoils of war means, let us say for example, one group attacked another group. Fine, whatever, in general, even today, when you say army is more or less same. When you attack one group and when you defeat them, what do you have to do? Whoever wins, they will get whatever, you get it there. You just plunder. Imagine, remember they keep telling Muhammad Ghori's invasion, Ghazni's invasion, this, that, the spoils of war. When they come here and when they defeat you, what will they do? Whatever the wealth is here, everything is yours. You just take it over. Spoils of war. Same kind of concept was spoils system in US. Spoils system means, let's say for example, as I told, constitution, everything was there. Whoever wins the election, presidential election in US, he will get the entire administration. When a new president comes, he will come with his own entire team. Officers only will change. Ministers, and we are not talking about bureau, what do you call this, politicians, who will change? Entire bureaucracy itself will change. See, now you logically think, last year you had assembly elections in Karnataka, you are another 1.5 months you are going to have Lok Sabha elections in overall India. Let's say, okay, because let's say new party comes to, whenever any party, let them anybody come, bureaucrats will not change, they will still remain the same. Who may change? Party in power may change. Look at Karnataka context last year, party in power changed. That means automatically who will change? Ministers will change. What about bureaucrats? Bureaucrats are the same only. Maximum what you may do, you may transfer them. Okay, whoever are favorable to you, you may bring them to the top position. Whoever are not favorable to you, you may transfer them. Agreed. But they are all there. They will be part of bureaucracy. Spoil system largely means what? Again, details we'll discuss. Largely means spoil system means whatever that existed in US. When a new president is elected, he will bring his entire team of officers also. Let's say you get defeated, then what do you do? Your entire team goes. Another new president comes, he will bring his own entire team. Now all this was there. At all levels, largely, whatever at all levels. Because the administration was not so largely developed. That concept itself was not largely developed. And that is the reason there was a person called as Woodrow, and then there were so many unemployment problems. All these things we'll discuss in your introduction chapter in detail. I'm just overall briefing. There was a president called as Greenfield who was assassinated. All unemployment problems was at the peak in US. I'm telling in 1870s, 1880s. There was a US president at that time who was assassinated by the unemployed youth because they felt there are no opportunities for us. You guys are not thinking about administration. Any issues used to happen, they used to just amend the constitution. That's when Woodrow Wilson is famously called as what? Father of public administration. Means he is the one, he was a political science scholar also, but he is the one who gave the idea, okay, we are not talking about implementation, we are only talking about what? Making laws, making constitution. It is not no use. It's not like you can't say of no use. That is not of the core importance. Whatever you changes you make in constitution, what you should be able to do? You should be able to get it done. That get it done means implementation part is more important. That's what he identified. That is when he said, we need to change these aspects of we need to come up with a new scientific study of administration. He said, Woodrow Wilson famously, we'll discuss it, that's why he's called as father of public administration. He had written an essay in 1887, the study of administration in a political science quarterly, all those are all facts, we'll come to it. And he had told that we should address this problem of spoils system. You cannot continue with this kind of system. We need to scientifically study administration. We need to understand how to implement things, how to get the work done, how to take decisions, how to make bureaucracy, or in other words, whatever civil service more strong. We need to understand this. That is when he stressed on that. Right? He did not give any theory. Woodrow Wilson, actually, even though he is famously considered as what? Father of public administration, he did not give any theory. But what did he give stress about? He most importantly, he gave a, what do you call it, this kind of thrust. What do you mean? Thrust means what? Energy. Kind of on saying that we are focused too much on developing theory. We should focus more on what? Implementation part. That's why we need to develop separate branch itself called as, which one? That separate branch is called as, separate study is called as public administration. And so that's why we keep telling, administration was existing from long time itself. Whenever king concept evolved, from there also administration is there. But focus on the study developed when? 1887. Understood? For a long time, political science, PubAd worked together only. Fine, as long as implementation was not a big challenge. Welfare state had not developed. As and when welfare state started to take more deeper roots, as and when government started to be more responsible for welfare, that is when they realized, okay, implementation itself is a completely separate thing. That's when PubAd and PSIR, that's why they keep telling PubAd actually emerged out of political science. Till then it was actually largely same. That's why even today they keep telling PSIR, not PSIR, political science and public administration are like the sister branches. Both are together, they work together. That is more of theory, PubAd is more of what? Practice. We also have theories, but how to get the things done. Understood? This is one way of linking to politics. There is another way of linking also. Logically you think, remember we keep telling, today we keep telling that we are entering 4th industrial revolution, correct? That means what? You also had what? First industrial, second industrial, third and fourth. Now first industrial revolution means largely, try to see what was it all largely about. First industrial revolution was largely about what? Steam engines. Steam engines, that, the old ones. Largely we can say 19th century or end 18th century, 17th, 80s, 90s, that era, or the entire 19th century. Then your second industrial revolution was largely driven by electricity. You can say first half of 20th century. Third revolution was largely second half of 20th century, driven by what? Telecommunication, internets or phones, whatever you call it as. Now we are entering that 4th industrial revolution, which is largely what? Artificial intelligence, whatever you call it as, data analytics, machine learning, whatever you calling it as. Now imagine 1500 years back, will you have a company like, for example, let's say what do you call this, Apple related, Facebook related, Ambani related, Adani related, TCS, will you have this kind of organizations or companies 1500 years back or 2000 years back? It's impossible. As and when gradually industrial revolution developed, you started to have big companies. Understood? Big companies, big organizations. Now again another challenge. How will you manage big organizations? Means earlier what will happen, let's say for example, imagine old eras, some person will be there in his or her own village, so they will take care of whatever people working under them. Gradually imagine when you start to have big organizations, imagine today there are companies which are spread across the world, MNCs, how will you how do you expect the founder of the company to be present everywhere? Can they manage things like that? Or let's say Ambani kind of one, imagine where all Reliance work. Do you expect Mukesh Ambani to go present everywhere, monitor their role? Is it possible practically? Imagine. It's impossible. How do you manage? Inside itself, you may have so many branches. How can Vinay sir manage for all those things? You can't manage. Imagine big companies then. So means with industrial revolution, what happened? Gradually, companies started to become big. Big means you understand, right? Too many people, too much of production, too much of profit. And gradually what happened, remember colonization also got linked. So British companies started to have branches here. Production will happen somewhere, raw material, imagine all those your history they'll tell. Raw materials will procure somewhere, production will happen somewhere, they'll market it somewhere, sell it somewhere. How do you manage all these big organizations? Now this this was not a big challenge before this. Before means what? In the old eras, company concept was not so big. That is when they started to gradually realize, okay, we need to develop theories of how to manage things. Because there are too many people now. How do you manage them? How do you recruit them? Recruit means what? Should we conduct an exam for them, or how do you recruit them? What is the specific criteria? Then let's say when you bring them into organization, how do you make the service condition? How do you give them promotion? How do you give them salary? Political science will not deal with this. Political science will deal with what? King, state, democracy, rights. But who will deal with these things? How do you manage organizations? So hence industrial revolution and public administration, or in general administration theories, are also actually linked. Understood? That's why what do you call as this, very famously we'll tell, there's a thinker called as Taylor, F.W. Taylor, we tell Frederick Taylor. He is famously called as the father of scientific management. Means he started to come up with theories that we need to scientifically manage things. So many things are division, remember we keep famously telling division of work. You can't do everything by yourself, it's impossible. If one does everything by himself, how much will you produce? Okay, if you are managing as an individual, let's say in a village you are making your products, you can manage. If you want to give your products for entire country, how will you do everything? If you do everything, you can't even go beyond your village, beyond your area. That is when they start to realize that okay, you have to get the things done. Get it done from others. Someone should take a decision, someone should implement. That is when scientific management theory evolved. They call it as what? Means you should look at things in a more scientific manner. Identify the steps involved. We'll understand all those things. Time and motion studies, so many things are there. And so that is scientific management era. Fred F.W. Taylor is famously called as that. Fine. Similarly, gradually so many theories start to evolve. And so this is what I am telling. Woodrow Wilson is the public administration angle. What is the other angle which you have to link? With the emergence of industrial revolution and with the emergence of big organizations, the concept of administration theories also started to develop. Simple reason, to manage big organizations. That is called as theory aspect. Right, from Taylor to so many things we start to discuss. Understood? Even in orientation I might have told, have you heard, there was a very famous scholar called as Abraham Maslow. If you have heard, he famously calls it as, what do you call this, motivation theory, hierarchy of needs, he says. Means, see, for example, if you want any government, forget about government employee, any employee, let's say he or she is working in an organization, any organization, it can be government organization, private organization, company, anything. Obviously, if he or she has to come every day with the same kind of energy, motivation, enthusiasm, imagine how much of effort you have to take. You ask logically yourself, if you don't like the work, how will you put the effort? See, humans are not machines, right? You just switch on the button, you can't expect them to work. Imagine how many things has to work to you. Let's say you are working under a boss who is like, let's say what, very against you. You are kind of personality itself is not matching, kind of ego class, how will you work? You will not even find that enthusiasm to work. Or let's say you are putting a lot of effort, but you are not getting salary. Okay, 1 month you will work, 2 months you will work. How long will you work like that? Or let's say you are putting a lot of effort, nobody is giving you recognition, nobody is praising your work, nobody is giving you encouragement, and the moment you failed, every blame was put on you. What do you think now? Will you work in the organization with the same kind of energy? Let's say you are contributing everything, your boss is your owner of the company, or they are getting everything, and you are not getting any kind of major incentives. How long will you work? Obviously you can't work. These are all logical things. Today it is logical, but for this lot of theories have evolved. How do you, or what all you have to do to get the maximum effort, maximum contribution from your employees? Because core reason, do not treat employees as machines. Remember, we keep calling it as Taylor, all of those people. I mean, okay, we'll not link to Taylor because those are all theory, we'll come to that. Earlier we used to think, means lot of people used to think, you give them money, people will work. This was largely expected earlier, what I am telling. Remember I told administration theories evolved. Taylor, they are all called as monistic theory. Monistic means one dimensional. Mono means, you understand, right? Mono means what? One dimensional. Means for a long time it was assumed that money is the primary motivator. You give money, people will do anything. It was to an extent true also. Even today money also will motivate. We are not saying no. But money is not the only criteria. You logically think, let's say someone pays you 1 lakh or 2 lakh per month, but literally he is treating you as a slave. How long will you work? What about your self-dignity, self-respect? Okay, you have financial need, you will work for 1 month, 1 year you will work. Later what will you feel? When there is no dignity of labor or self-respect, obviously no human will work. That is when they started to, whatever I told you now is largely we call it as classical theories, where whatever I told you now, classical theory. Classical means what? Remember, in general, whenever you say classical, what does that mean? Old. Old is called as classical, or beginning, early theories. Classical theories were largely like this. There were a lot of thinkers for it. Taylor, Fayol, Gulick, Urwick, all of them, largely industrial revolution era thinkers. Means at that time, imagine you can link actually to all this to capitalism also. For a long time, if you can recall, remember we keep telling ruthless capitalism. Ruthless means what? The only focus is on what? Make profit. Are you treating your employees in a dignified manner? Nothing is your focus. Only focus is what? Get the most of the profit. Get as much work done from your employees. And so that is what was Karl Marx was also criticizing, if you can recall. Because remember, Karl Marx used to tell haves, have-nots, haves, bourgeois, proletariat. It was all largely referring to the ruthless capitalism. Classical theories were largely dealing with that, because they assume you just pay them, get the work done, you make as much profit as possible, don't think about employees' welfare. It was largely this era. Gradually they start to realize, okay, you can't do all these things. That's when new theories evolved called as humanistic theory. Look at the word itself, humanistic theory. What do you mean by that? Humanistic theory means, okay, machineries or technology is not the core of organization. Any organization is made by employees. Employees are the core. Remember, that's why as of now or even today, you look at any big, business leaders, you tell like Ratan Tata or Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, everybody, they keep telling that what? Our employees are our core, they are our foundation, they tell. That is what you call as humanistic theory. Technology is not the core. What is the core? Employees are the core. They are the ones who bring value to your organization. Any organization you take it as for that matter. Because technology you may bring new. What if employees don't work for you? That's why they have something called as organizational culture, organizational integration. Means any employee is working for the organization should take pride that I am an employee of this company. Understood? For example, let's say you are working for Facebook or Google or Tata's or Ambani's. If you take the pride that this is my company, I am an employee of this, then that is called as organizational integration. Means what is the employee doing here? Employees identify himself with the organization. But most of the times what will they do? I am working here just for the sake of it. my boss doesn't even care for me. That means what is that then? You are not integrated with your organization. You are not identifying yourself. You are just working for the sake of your salary. If you are working only for the sake of a salary, how much will you contribute to the company's growth? You logically think and tell. You will not contribute to the growth because you feel that you are not a stakeholder of that organization. Now, these are all new angles which started to develop during humanistic era. Humanistic thinkers we tell. Of course, there are thinkers for it. We'll discuss Elton, Mayo, so many people are there. Understood? Look at it. Abraham Maslow, if you have heard, was a very, very famous motivation scholar. Now, what he had identified? He identified that every individual will have a hierarchy of needs. That's why look at it, pyramid. Most of the people will be at the lowest level. He calls it as physiological need. Means what? Means most of the people first think about basic needs. Basic needs means what? Food, shelter, clothing. You need to give them that. Once that is fulfilled, then they'll keep talking about, okay, fine, I have everything now. I have a house, I have basic job, I have this, that. Now I need security for my job. I need security for my life. I need security for my property. That is security need. He will start thinking about that. Then Maslow says when that is done, he will start thinking about, okay, fine, I have everything, I have job, this or everything. But society doesn't respect me. I don't have that kind of what they call as status, prestige. That prestige is not there. Then he will start thinking about, okay, I need something with which my status in the society will improve. That is social need. Social need, look at that. Then he says after that is also done, everything is done, they'll start thinking about, okay, I have everything, I need something to satisfy myself. I need to achieve something, recognition. I need to build an organization. I should lead a project. I should build a new Niti Ayog, new this, new that. So that is called as recognition need because you need to focus on your achievement. Fine. Then he says after all these people, so few people will reach. That's why look at the way it's very top. Very few people will reach stage called as self-actualization. Self-actualization means he says beyond all these few people will start thinking about, forget about what society thinks, what is all those things. I should derive pleasure, happiness from what I do. You remember a lot of people keep telling, no, motivation you made. In YouTube, imagine every spiritual thinker, what will they tell now? Take happiness. Do what brings happiness to you. This you can't tell it to whom? This you can tell it to those people who have already reached some stage. Let's say someone who is coming from a very poor background, who is the first graduate of their family. Will you directly tell him do whatever? That you can't tell it to him. First, what they need? First, they need a basic job. When their family is struggling for 3 meals a day, if you tell him find happiness in your work, that all will not work for him. That will work for whom? That will work for those who have already made so many things. You can tell it for Mukesh Ambani's son, do something which gives you happiness. How will you tell it to a slum dweller's son? How will you tell it to him? Do something which will give you happiness. You can't tell it to him because he is where? He is here. Everybody will have different needs. See, most of the middle class, for us, mostly all this is met. First two needs are largely met for us. Basic food, clothing is not a huge problem for middle class. Or basic, sir, but I don't know, tomorrow my property will get lost, you will not have that kind of because all the security is there. That's why we largely think about which need? Social need. Why do you think you are appearing for civil service? Because your basic need is already met. You need some position which will give you kind of status in society. Status means you don't have to necessarily take it in a negative manner. Kind of what? Kind of, okay, we have responsible positions somewhere. Let's say, for example, imagine when you get into IAS and then you go to your relatives function. Imagine your respect. No, that's the truth. Let's say you work in an IT company. Fair enough. You may earn 2 lakh, 3 lakh per month. As an IAS, your salary will start from 60,000, 70,000. Imagine the respect a normal IT guy gets, and imagine when you become IAS and IPS, the respect you get. You can't even match. That is what is social need. Social need is a very huge need that drives entire Chandra Layout, Old Rajendra aspirants are driven by social need. Because that's why you observe most of us are largely Whatever within middle class, if you have differences also, lower middle or upper middle only. Rich people, do you think Mukesh Ambani's son will come and prepare for civil service exam? When Infosys Narayan Murthy's son, will he come and prepare? He will not even care because he is somewhere else. He is where self-actualization need there. When a normal slum dweller son also will not think about this, because imagine for this exam you have to prepare sometimes minimum 2 years, sometimes 3, sometimes. How do you expect a person who is struggling for 2 meals a day to give 3 to 4 years or 5 years for an exam? Is it possible for him? You will practically think and imagine. It's impossible. Obviously, right? So hence, largely that's why social need is for largely, I'm telling, there's a lot of details for it, middle class need. Now let us say you get into IAS once. Fine, 1, 2 year, everybody praising, media, interviews, your community, everything is there. Okay, fine, DC position also you finished after 10 years. Means that social need, everything is, you will get actually fed up of that. Everybody will keep only, then you, I need to achieve something now. I need to drive a project. I have to be brainchild behind a particular one. Let's say kind of Niti Aayog, kind of this project, that project, anything. That is when they will, once you fulfill your position of IAS or IPS, then you start thinking about what? Okay, I need to achieve something now. Because IAS itself is not an achievement, right? Okay, it's a basic kind of achievement, agreed. But IAS is not an end in itself, it's a means to achieve something else. Then you start thinking about that achievement need. Let's say after you achieve everything, for that you get praise, then very few people will reach which need? Self-actualization, where you derive pleasure not from some praise, some property or some profit or some position. You are deriving pleasure from where? From your work itself. Like how, what, I mean, as a, like what Abraham Maslow says, like how Leonardo da Vinci would have derived pleasure from painting, let's say what, the famous Mona Lisa kind of a paint. That pleasure, that kind of happiness is what you call as what? Self-actualization need. Let's say a pleasure that or a happiness a writer gets from writing, let's say Leo Tolstoy would have got from writing a book or someone else, that pleasure he calls it as self-actualization. That very few people will reach it, and it's not so easy because lot of people will be stuck in lower order. That's why within this details are there. Lower order need, middle order need, higher order need. These two are largely lower order need. These two are middle order. This is higher. This is Abraham Maslow's very famous need hierarchy. In fact, a lot of people, if you have seen, link it to what? The welfare schemes also. You might have observed like a lot of criticism with respect to this free, which on PDS, National Food Security Act, Annabhagya, all of that. You might have heard freebies. Most of the criticism, a lot of people give for freebies is what? See, when you give everything for free for people, why will they think about any other things? Is what a lot of people criticize. Means you might have heard those criticisms, right? From the last, especially in Karnataka context, because of all these guarantees, you might have heard very famous criticisms what that people give is what? When you give everything to them, why will they work? They just sit in the villages and that is what a lot of people tell. Which is to an extent correct also, we are not saying no, but there is a counter angle to it. A lot of people tell is what? See, when you are giving a lot of freebies, you are not giving them so many needs, you are only fulfilling their what? Physiological need, basic food, clothing, shelter, those needs only you are meeting. What are you giving him an IAS position or a civil servant position? So that's why a lot of people counter it that governments through freebies are only fulfilling physiological need. Automatically when those needs are fulfilled, what will people start thinking about? They'll start thinking about security need or social need or something else. Don't assume that just because you give it, everybody will become lazy, nobody will work. Historically, based on theories, it is not true. When you give something their basic need, people will start thinking about the next need. Don't assume that they'll just sit lazy, become lazy and sit in home. That anyhow they would have done. If someone had decided to be lazy or anything, even if you don't give, they would have anyhow been lazy. So this all we don't study in what? GS. Same freebies we study in freebie. GS also, if you have seen in DPSP, all those kind of one. There you don't give a theory touch. Here you have to give the theory touch. Theory touch is like, as I told, motivation. This is a very famous motivational theory. Understood? Then there came another person who said there are two kinds of motivators. One is extrinsic motivator, intrinsic motivator. We famously call him as, his name was Herzberg, Frederick Herzberg. And what he says is that not everything will motivate you. This is what he says. Let's say, for example, you are getting good salaries, good employees you have, means colleagues, policy is good, all those things. What Herzberg says, they don't motivate you. He says there are some factors which will motivate you. Means what? What is your work? Are you liking your work? Fine. Are you getting a kind of responsibility position? He says when you have those things, automatically people will start getting motivated. Means, remember, as they famously kept telling, you make someone leader of a group, automatically he'll get more energy. Because what is he now? He's the leader, he has to lead you from the front. Automatically they'll start becoming more proactive because he has been given a responsibility. Now this is what Herzberg says. There are two kind of factors you have to identify. One kind of factors will not motivate you. They will not demotivate you. Means he says there are a lot of factors which may not give you satisfaction, but which will not do you, which will make you or which will make sure that you are not dissatisfied. Now another set of factors which will not just demotivate, what will they do? They will motivate you to work more. Now what Herzberg says at the core is, money will not motivate you. What will money do? Money will not demotivate, means if you are getting less salary, it may demotivate you. If you get more salary, he says, it will not motivate you, it will make sure that you keep working. But what he says, if you make him the leader of the group, that will motivate him. He will start putting more effort. If you give him the responsibility, he will take more effort. If he is liking the job, he will put more effort. That is broadly what I am just overall. This is called as two-factor theory. Two factors. Look at it. He is identifying two factors. That is called as satisfier. These are all very famous questions, which even in 2023 PubAd also they have asked this question. And so this is one set of one. Then have you heard words like motivation and morale? Motivation is what we have told here. What do you mean by morale then? Have you remember they keep telling that the morale is down now. Now obviously imagine the kind of, if you follow IPL, the kind of defeat they had because of the way KKR all of that hit, the morale of RCB will be a little down. Now morale means what then? Morale means the ability of a group to work together, trust each other and keep going forward. That morale will be down. Remember they keep famously telling, when Indian army was defeated by Chinese army in 1962, the morale of the army came down. So morale means what now? Not as an individual you're talking about what? As a group, your ability to work together, believe in your overall effort and keep going forward. So that's why if you have heard, after 1962, whatever morale had come down, it again picked up after 1971 war win. In fact, to an extent, 1965 war win also. Remember, Lal Bahadur Shah said, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. After 1962 war, we got a advantage, means we literally kind of won over Pakistan, then the morale picked up. Fine. And after we won 1971 war, morale went to the peak. That is morale. Not just for army, they keep telling it for India also. Whenever a country loses a war, it is not just army whose morale will come down. Whose morale will come down? As a country, our morale will come down. In fact, that is what they say after 1962 war, entire India's morale came down. It actually picked up only after 1971 war. That is morale. Ability of, you are not talking about morale means not about individual, you are talking about what? As a group. Imagine for an army, if you want to go together, how much morale they should have. That applies for your cricket team also, any team for that matter. As a company also, you need a morale. You logically think, imagine Air India last year was sold to Tata. For 10-20 years, if you know the Air India history, at least 10 to 15 years, I think probably from the first 5 years of Manmohan Singh era, from then on they continuously tried to revive Air India. For whatsoever reasons, so many reasons, they could not come back out of it. If 10-15 years, if the company is under continuous loss, imagine the morale of the employees working for Air India. What will become to your morale? Largely they'll lose that what? Self-confidence itself they'll lose. They'll lose the belief that okay, you will not even have a belief that we can win. And so that morale is a very important factor for a group. If you don't have that, organizations will fail. Now this all who did not talk? People like, remember I told you classical thinkers, they did not talk about all these things. These are all new concepts which have evolved. Understood? Similarly, there is concepts called as leadership theories. Leadership everybody knows, but there are a lot of leadership theories. If you have heard called as transformational leadership, transactive leadership. Just as I told you, let's say there is some word called as transaction. Transaction means what in general? Let's say you go to some hotel, you pay something, they'll give you something. That is what transaction. So if a leader looks at his or her employees as a transaction, means what? Okay, I am the boss of the company, I pay you work. This itself is a relationship. You are not going to develop company into a big successful company, because you're only looking at your employer and employee relation is looked at as a kind of a transaction. You're doing your effort for a month. What am I doing to you? I'm giving you money, pay. Done. My relationship with you is done to that. You will not going to transform people here. Then transformative means what? Look at the word transformative leadership means what? An employer, boss, a leader should be one who will encourage your employees to identify their potential. You should develop leaders within them. If a leader is so insecure that okay, if I encourage my employee to think big, he will be a threat to my position. You are a transactive leader, because you are only insecure. If you are insecure, how will you develop your subordinates into leaders? Remember Ratan Tata or Elon Musk, for that matter, Steve Jobs. You have to encourage your employees. There are so many keywords for this: innovative interaction, something like so many influential interaction, like that. So many are there. Basic point is that you should encourage your subordinates to what? To think big. They should become leaders. You should not be insecure about them. Understood? If Steve Jobs feels insecure saying that what? Okay, if I encourage my subordinate to become more innovative than me, then if my position is, if you start thinking like that, you can't develop big companies. If Ratan Tata thinks, okay, nobody should become bigger than me, or nobody should start thinking, or nobody should become a leader, you will not develop a big organization. That's why, remember, if you have seen, a lot of people, just as an example so that you can relate, I am telling you, you might have heard, if you have follow cricket keenly, everybody keeps telling that but Dhoni's room will be always open, anybody can go there, discuss with him, he will tell you to think, he will tell you that okay, you take the lead, you lead the bowling team, you lead the batting team. Means what are you doing here? You are not insecure about your position. What are you doing? You are encouraging your teammates to go take the leadership position. You go lead, you make the bowling change, you make the batting change. What are you doing here? You are encouraging your subordinates to take decisions. Now what if he feels like, no, you don't do anything, I will tell you do. That means what are you then? You are a transactive leader. Means you are insecure about your position. You are not allowing someone else to take the lead. Then how will you develop future leaders? Then let's say if you go away, then future is gone. If the organization wants to sustain, what do you need? If it should not depend on one individual. Even if one individual goes away, someone else should come and keep leading. If it depends on one individual, okay, as long as that individual is there, it's fine. Imagine if you go away, the company is gone. That's why if you want organizations to continuously keep growing, you need to develop leaders at all the levels. Anybody should come forward and take the lead. That is the intention of transformational leadership. These are all new kind of theories which evolved. Like this, these are all whatever I told you till now is the theoretical part. Same way you have to apply to over a period of time. Remember, we keep telling policy. Policy concept started to develop. Policy means what? Say, as of now, policy means, basic definition I am telling, what it is about kind of framework of action. Means it is a kind of a framework which will tell what the government intends to do over a period of 5 years or whatever, long term, or what the government is intending not to do. Understood? And the policy will determine how the resources are allocated. Now this public policy concept, Thomas Hobbes, Rosa, all of them will not talk. Public policy concept, remember new education policy you tell, new health policy you tell. Actually the concept called as policy itself is just 50, 70 years old. 1930s they tell, to be more precise, post Second World War. Means largely you can say what, 70, 80 years old, that's it. Policy concept itself was not there earlier. Now, policy is linked to welfare state kind of an end. Remember, who will make a policy itself is a big one. For example, a lot of people told that it is the ministers and bureaucrats who will make policy. They will sit, they will decide and they will take the call. That whatever I told you, they call it as institutional model of policy. Institutional model means you are assuming new education policy means who will make? The education minister will make, education secretary will make. This is called as institutional model. But then a lot of people countered it saying, how do you think only bureaucrats and ministers will make? Where is the role of media then? Where is the role of institutions? Means what? Academics, professors. Where is the role of NGOs? Where is the role of judiciary? Where is the role of people? Where is the role of, like for example, remember we keep playing 1991 LPG reforms. Fine, you might have made it, but who put the pressure? IMF put the pressure on you to make the policy. That means government or a minister is not making the policy here. Who is forcing you to make it? International organization is forcing you to make it. So that is a new concept which has developed. Like that, so many are there. There are so many models called as institutional model, group model, Karl Marx, Marxist model of thinking, rational model, n number of things are there. So those are all, this is another kind of theory. These are all whatever I am telling you is largely what? Paper 1. Paper 1 of PUBAD is largely what? Theory part. Theory means various administrative, like as I told, Taylor, Fayol, all of them. You might have heard, remember very famously we keep telling Weberian bureaucracy. Have you heard that word? We keep telling Weberian bureaucracy. Means there was a very famous thinker called as Max Weber. Weber is the person who actually gave a theory to the concept called as bureaucracy. Actually bureau means, bureau comes from the French word, bureau means actually table kind of a one, where civil servants used to put those files and then note things on that. From there the concept called as bureaucracy has developed. Understood? That is a very huge thing. Like for example, simple one he says, see for example you might have heard words like power and authority. What is the difference? Power, authority. We normally keep telling power, everything is same. Actually everything is not the same. So they have identified the difference. Max Weber says authority equals power plus legitimacy, he says. Legitimacy is the keyword here. Means he says what Max Weber says. This all we don't again study in GS. Power means what he says? Your ability to get the things done despite others' resistance. Means what? You others agree or others don't agree, doesn't matter. You have that power to get your things done. You can force someone to get the things done. Like how kings used to get the things done. That is power by the form of what? Violence, force. Authority means what? You are not forcing anybody to listen to you. They will only listen to you. That means what? There is a legitimate, simple example. Let's say for example, whatever your parents say, even though you may not like it also sometimes, what you will do? You will follow it. Now, is it because Constitution says, does the Constitution say that as a child you should respect your parents? Is there anybody saying it? Lot of people, let's say for example, you are a devotee of some god or some religion or some mutts, whatever you call it as groups. Most of the people listen to what they say. Whatever your religious leaders say, whatever your community leaders say, whatever your religion means, kind of what, whatever saints kind of when people have told. No, did the Constitution say, did the law say that you should listen to your religious leaders? Then why are you listening? Or why are you following their, whatever they told, why are you following? Got an idea, right? Whatever you are following, what your parents say or what your grandparents say, or let's say for example, more or less you might have observed, whenever any elder comes, you will stand up, you will greet them, your body language itself will change. Have you observed that? If your superior comes or your elder comes, did the Constitution say that what you should respect your elders, the moment they come you should stand up? Is the Constitution saying it? Is there any legal obligation? Then why are you doing all this? In fact, that's if you have seen, especially in few states, the moment an elder comes or something, they'll fall to their feet. They'll take their blessings. Is the word Indian Constitution under Article 25 is telling or that word? Then why are you doing all these things? Is anybody forcing you also? Most of the things, they mean nobody is forcing it. It's not like elder told you please fall for, nobody is telling you to fall to the feet. Why are you doing it? That is called as traditional authority. Traditional authority means because that is what has been followed for a long time, you are also following it. From your childhood, you might have seen your brothers, your sisters, your parents doing the same thing to others. Now, what will you do? You will also do the same. Right? The moment you look at God, the moment you enter a temple, imagine automatically your behaviors will change. The way you behave, everything will change. Is there anybody who is telling you to do it? You get socialized. Means what? From the childhood, you would have seen people behaving in a different way. Let's say, for example, you don't put shoes, you don't put slippers, all those things, and go into religious places. There is no rule for that. There is no constitution or angle. You can directly do it. Why are you not doing it then? Because we are socialized. That socialization concept is called as traditional authority. Means what? Nobody, it is not as a rule. It is not because of a law. It is because of what? Tradition. In general, what do you mean by tradition? Remember they keep, this is our tradition, this is our tradition means what? Something which has been followed for a long time, you are also following it. That is why everybody, more or less everybody, you respect your parents, elders, you follow their orders, or you what do you call as this, religious leaders, everybody, this is because of tradition. So they are getting their power, they are getting their things done. Your parents you are following their orders, not just because they are forcing you to do, because what they have? They have a legitimacy not because of law, because of what? Tradition. That is called as, Weber what he says it as is traditional authority. There is something called as charismatic authority. Look at the word charisma. What do you mean by in general charisma? What do you mean by charisma or charisma? What do you call it as? You are attracted by someone for their character. Means what? Simple what they tell is like how Nelson Mandela led a movement, how Gandhi led a movement. Again, it is not because of tradition here. What happens? For some reason, people are attracted to their leadership quality. Somehow you believed that he can bring a change. Somehow people believe that Martin Luther can bring a change. Remember, in fact, the recent examples, largely what we give for it is, which one? This Anna Hazare movement of India against corruption. I mean, you will be very young during that time probably, but almost 1 to 2 years, entire India believed that he'll bring a change. Everybody believed. Okay, he will. I think there a large, huge full stop will come to corruption was a large belief. Everybody believed it because of so many factors. Because everybody were fed up of corruption. We wanted to see some change. That change, who became the face of the change? Anna Hazare. If you have heard, remember we keep telling India against corruption movement led by Anna Hazare, because you believed in their leadership quality. And that's what is the Godman theory. Remember, all of a sudden, some person will emerge, so who will start feeling like what? Like people will start believing that he is like a god, he'll bring some change. Somehow you will believe that, like because of their leadership quality or something, some charisma. That charisma may sustain or may not sustain. Look, Anna Hazare, today nobody is attracted by his leadership quality. But the 2 years, everybody believed. That is charisma. Now, charisma is traditional authority is a long, what do you call this? Is a more longevity based. Longevity means what? It has continued for a long time. Charisma will not continue. Charisma stays for a very short period. It depends on so many factors. During one brief period, for some reason, you will believe in them. But over a period of 5 or 10 years, you may lose the belief in their leadership ability. Then that will change. Actually, a lot of saints or godmen in India are based on, to an extent, tradition also, but charisma. Remember, all of a sudden, like let's say Sadhguru kind of a one, charisma, largely charisma now. Of course, he also has a traditional angle because he is taking that kind of a what? Religious saint or a kind of a religion angle. But that's also largely a charisma, his ability to convince you. Narendra Modi's leadership is largely a charismatic leadership. Somehow, imagine, you ask largely a common man, what is common man largely believing? Yes, he is getting elected by a system, there is parliamentary system, election, everything is there. But largely, what is the common man believing? There is nobody else who can bring a change. If anybody has to bring a change, it is Narendra Modi. It is largely common man's belief. How are you believing? Sir, I am believing, that's it. That is charisma. Fine. That kind of concept is called as charismatic leadership. But Narendra Modi is a combination. Charisma plus the next one what we call is legal rational authority. Legal rational authority means largely you think. Let's say for example someone is an SI, fine, or a DY, what do you call it, is inspector. Now to become an SI or inspector you would have worked there for 25-30 years. You become IPS. You directly go become boss to him. Your age is let's say 30 after training, NPA training, everything. How much experience you have about criminals? You are just entering. You might have trained, you might have cleared civil service exam, you might be trained in NPA, all those things. You know the theory, you know fundamental rights, human rights, everything you know, agreed. But how does a criminal investigation happens on ground? How will you know? But does that person who is let's say in his 50s, he has already worked for 30 years, will he take your orders or not? If you become IPS and if he is inspector, he has to take your orders or not? He has to take. Actually, inherently he will be thinking, actually this person is how will he actually treat you? Within means, inherently what he will be thinking, he is a small kid, actually he doesn't know anything. Somehow he has cleared exam, he has become my boss. He will also think that you don't know anything about crime investigation because you have just started, but you have, because of the position, you have become their boss. Even though he knows that you don't know anything, still what will he do? Whatever you say, he will listen. Not because he is believing in your leadership ability, not because he is believing in your criminal investigation skills, not because he is believing in your criminology theory. What? Because what? Because you are his boss. That is actually legal rational authority, because there is a system. Legal rational means what? There is a set of rules, there is a set of exam, whatever exam, anything. Same way, let's say for example, let's say you are IAS and you have worked there for 20 years. Someone comes and becomes your minister. Means imagine someone who is not even a degree holder. Imagine so many ministers are there. Now you are education secretary, he is education minister. Now you have studied, you are what? There are so many people you might have seen IAS officers who are what? Who are IIT graduates, IIM graduates, Harvard graduates, they have done everything, has come there. You are education secretary. Your boss is normal PU holder or a normal degree holder. He doesn't know anything, but he is your education minister. Now what you have to do now? You have to listen to what he says. Not because you believe in his visionary leadership or anything. Because what? Because in the system, whatever the system that we have established, minister is the boss, you have to work under him. Lot of bureaucrats, you go and ask them, they'll tell, this minister actually doesn't know anything. But what do you have to do? The moment he comes, you have to give respect, you have to give him the leader, you have to make him sit in the major chair, kind of what if a meeting is happening, you have to give him the most important seat, you have to sit beside him, you have to brief him, whatever decision they take, you have to listen to it, you have to implement it. Why are you doing all this? Even though you don't believe in his skills and knowledge. Why are you doing all this then? System, because system is designed in such a way that everybody is given a position. If you are a subordinate, you have to listen to your superior. Fine. If you are a superior civil servant, you have to listen to your someone else secretary positions. If you are a secretary also, you have to listen to your minister. Minister has to listen to PM or CM, whatever for that matter. Because what actually, if you have so many ministers, let's say for example, people like Jaishankar. Imagine what will he be thinking about Narendra Modi? Because he is what? He is foreign secretary, he is IFS officer for 30-40 years. Imagine his depth of understanding about for international relations. Okay, media has projected that what Narendra Modi is the biggest international scholar, everything they have projected. Practically, how much knowledge will he have about international relations? No, you can't expect him. Everything will be guiding. Jaishankar will be guiding. Inherently, Jaishankar may be thinking, I can't help. Actually, he doesn't know anything. But you can't lead. You have to lead. You have to allow whom to lead? You have to allow Modi to lead. Not because he has more knowledge than you in international relations. Because what? He is the prime minister. Imagine what a person like, let's say, huge knowledge with finance, everything will be thinking about finance. Everywhere it is like that. Whatever I told you now is technically, theoretically, legal, rational authority. Because there is a law, there is a system of rules, and that system itself is designed based on certain logic. That logic is rationality. See, in general, even this is also, remember we keep telling, oh, you are not thinking rationally, we tell. When you tell someone you are not thinking rationally, you are thinking emotionally, rationality means what here? Logic. But yes, logic only correct. But in Pabad kind of a one, here rationality means largely we will think it too. You have to choose the best means to achieve the best end. Rationality means you are linking it to goal here. Goal means an organization should use rationality. Means what? They should use such a kind of a technology or something which should make you what? Which should make you achieve your best goal. That is rationality. Rationality is logic only, correct, not agree, we are not denying it, but linking it to what? Goals. Best means to achieve best goals. That is rationality. That's why in Pabad, if you have heard, we keep famously telling that any organization has 3 goals or 3 E's we tell. 3 E's. 3E means effectiveness, efficiency, economy. Effectiveness means what actually in politics. See, all these are in general, everybody knows. You are not effective, they keep telling. You are not efficient, they tell. In administration, effectiveness means what? Did you achieve the goal or not? That is effectiveness. Did you achieve your goal or not? Let's say, for example, the goal was to increase the literacy rate from 75% to 80%. The goal was to construct 1,000 primary schools in this year. That is your goal. If you constructed that 1,000 schools within that 1 year, that means what? Effectiveness is achieved. So effectiveness means what? Did you achieve the goal or not? Let's say, for example, if a company has a goal that, okay, this year our annual turnover means what? Business should be 100 crore. So if you reach that 100 crore, effectiveness is achieved. So effectiveness means what? You achieved your goal. But there is another factor which they take, which is called as what? Efficiency. Efficiency means what? When you achieved your goal, how much effort how much money have you spent on it? For example, let us say in 5 years, if the Bangalore metro project, whatever you have, we have to finish our metro project in 5 years. Let's say that is the goal. Okay, if you finished it, that means what have you done? Effectiveness is done. But in the beginning you thought we will finish it in 10,000 crore. But over a period of 5 years, for whatsoever reason, you have spent 20,000 crore. You have achieved your goal, correct? How much money have you spent here? In place of 10,000 crore, you have put 15,000 crore or 20,000 crore. Where is the efficiency? So efficiency means what then? How much have you spent and how much have you achieved? If you have spent more and achieved the same goal, where is the efficiency then? Because any company will think about what? Any organization will think about what? Profit. How much did we put? How much did we recover? If you have spent more and recovered the same amount, where is the efficiency then? So effectiveness is also important. Efficiency is also important. Then comes your economy. Economy means in general 3 is economy means here in general economy means here you have to reduce whatever wastages of resources are there, you have to reduce that wastage. Means what? Let us say for example, if you can get a work done by 10 people, why are you employing 20 people there? Correct, right? You can get one work done by 10 people. Why are you putting 20 people there? You can get a same kind of technology, same quality of technology, you can get at some less cost. Why are you putting more cost there? So reduce the wastage of resources. That is economy. Understood? These are 3 E's, which for a long time we keep telling it as the goals. Goals of any organization. See, but government focuses not more on efficiency. Private companies, because when I say organization, we don't study here in administration only about government. Theories in the beginning, we actually, as I told, all the major theories developed where? Because of the industrial revolution effect, all these theories first developed where? In the private companies. Then who started to take this? Government started to take this. So in government, we think more about effectiveness. For example, simple, imagine how much of budget we spend on defense. How much is it giving back? Is the defense generating anything? Directly it will not generate anything. Defense, imagine for an average, if you have seen this budget, you have to see, on an average every year defense ministry gets 2 lakh crore. Fine, but is it generating any output? Directly will they sell any product to give you anything back? They are not generating anything back. Imagine how much every year we spend on police, how many police are there, how much salaries we give them, pensions, this, that, everything. Are they generating any product directly? Let's say you have what you call this Indian Oil, ISRO, BHEL, BEL. You spend on it, they'll sell the products, they'll get revenue. Where is your police getting any revenue? Where is your defense getting any revenue? But how can your government neglect defense? If you only use efficiency as a criteria, okay, if you look at as efficiency, okay, I spent 2 lakh crore from defense, how much it should give me 3 lakh crore this year? They will not give you, because simple reason is what? They are not generating, they are not producing anything here to sell and recover the money. But imagine you neglect defense. If you only take efficiency, imagine the threats to your country. And once China or someone else attacks, where is other aspects then? So that is the reason government cannot focus more on efficiency. Government you should think from a different angle. That's what largely we keep telling. Public administration and private administration are different. Because private administration means companies can think only about what? Profit. How can government think only about profit? How will you think only about profit? Because imagine education, primary education. Will you get the primary education result within 4 years or 5 years? Imagine you take yourself. When did your parents start investing on your education? How many years back? You have still not generated revenue. Means what? Overall, how much have you still would not have given. Imagine it will take another 2 years or probably 3 years or something. What if they think that within 2 years you have to give the product? That means there are a lot of projects which are long gestation based. Long gestation means what? You have to wait for a long period. You can't expect quick results. Public administration largely is about long gestation projects. You have to think for a long time. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Because you cannot expect very, very quick results in public administration. These are all broadly with various aspects. We will study about all these things. Understood? There's accountability. Remember, we keep telling in general accountability in in polity principle, but in PABAD it is a more detailed one. We tell accountability equals responsibility plus answerability plus enforcement. See, 3 words: responsibility. Because remember in polity, I only will tell in polity, if you have observed, that responsibility, answerability, accountability is all same. That is for GS, that is for constitution angle. In theory, actually it is a small, it's the equation, look at it, accountability equals responsibility plus answerability plus enforcement. Means what? In general you think, what do you mean by responsibility? Sir, I am responsible for this. What do you mean by responsible for this? You are given a duty, you are given a target, and what do you have to do? You have to achieve it. That is responsibility. Let us say, for example, you don't achieve it, or you achieved it, but whatever wrongs are done. That means then what will come? Answerable. You are answerable for what you have done, what you have not done. Remember, we keep telling, you are answerable for your omissions and commissions. Omission means what? For what you have not done. Commission, for what wrongs you have done. Let's say you have done anything wrong, then there should be enforcement. Enforcement means what? Some penalty should be there on you, or else why will they do the things? Now all together is called as what? Accountability. You are given a task or a goal or a target. After a particular time, someone will ask you about what have you done for it. After that, if you have not done, if you have misused your power, what they will do? They will put penalties on you. They may suspend you, they may dismiss you, they may put a corruption case against you, they may demote you, whatever they can do. Those are all enforcement mechanism. And so that is accountability as a whole. Though in polity for us is general, everything is accountability. This is more detailed. See, that's what, remember, we keep telling triple chain of accountability. Civil servants are answerable to whom? Ministers. Ministers are answerable to Legislature are answerable to people. This is triple chain of accountability. Look at it, triple chain. Three links you have, triple chain of accountability. Now democracy is based on that. And so like that, so many types of accountability are there. You might have heard famously tools like what you might, I mean, again in polity we tell RTI, social audit, citizens charter, all of them are tools of accountability. Media is famously called as what? Yes, watchdog of democracy. People's parliament we tell. There's so many details in media also. We'll study so many things in detail. All of that is accountability and control chapter. And so remember in polity we keep studying something called as tribunals, quasi judicial authorities. The tribunals, delegated legislation, all of them is part of a chapter called as administrative law, because administration is making the law here. Delegated legislation, who is making it? Administration. It's a more theory concept, I am just briefing it. Understood? That is one. Then development administration, comparative administration, budget. Remember budget we study in polity also, but we only study it as what there? Article 112, budget, 2 bills, is that everything? That is constitution part. But there are so many types of budgeting. Remember I might have told you in polity that there is a very famous budgeting called as traditional line item budget. Everything you have to split. But we are largely now shifting towards outcome budget. What do you mean by traditional line item budget? In simple terms, each and every single item you have to mention. Let's say when you say just now defense ministry 2 lakh crore. What do you have to do under 2 lakh crore? Defense ministry cannot say give me 2 lakh crore. There nobody will give you like that. What do you have to do? Each and every single item of your expenditure you have to mention. For how much salaries, how much pensions, how much maintenance of weapons, how much new weapons, how much border infrastructure, how much missiles, how much this, that, each and every single expenditure you should mention in detail. That is line item expenditure, line item budgeting. Largely we follow that only, but in the recent times we are shifting towards what? Outcome budgeting. If you have heard, again in theory, in administration we have identified 2 words, 3 words actually. I might have told you or I might have not told you in polity, it depends. The 3 words are what? Look at the words. Outlay, output, outcome. Fine. Let's say practical, just simple example. Let us say education ministry is allotted 1 lakh crore by the budget. Now that is called as what? That 1 lakh crore is called as what? Outlay. Means education ministry has received and has been allotted 1 lakh crore or 1.5 lakh crore in this year, financial year. That is outlay. Now obviously when you are given 1.5 lakh crore, what will they give you? They will give you certain targets. Okay, this year you have to what? Construct n number of primary schools, n number of colleges, n number of universities. You should recruit x number of teachers for primary school, this, that, everywhere you will have a target. The target is called as what? Output. 1000 primary schools should be constructed in X state this year. That's an output. So you have constructed, it means you have achieved your output. Fine. But outcomes comes after output is achieved. Let us say you constructed school. See, what did you construct school? Just for the sake of it. Why did you construct school? So that more children come to the school, literacy rate improves, quality of education improves. That is called as what? Outcome. For a long time in India, we have focused on what? For example, simple, very best example that you can take is Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, open defecation. Imagine for a long time what we are focusing on. First, construct the toilets first. In every house, they should have a toilet. So for a long time, if you can recall, we called it Swachh Bharat now. It was earlier called as what? Total sanitation campaign. 20-30 years, in fact more than that, the overall focus was on please construct toilets in every household. That was the goal. Now more or less they did it for 30-40 years, they did it. Then over a period of time they realized, okay fine, output is there now. People are not using it. Why did you construct toilets? First of all, to construct a toilet or what? What is the intention? So that people will not open defecate. Open defecate means you understand that. 2, people obviously will, especially for girl children and women. Imagine that's a open defecation for girl children and women is also an issue associated with their self-respect, dignity. Now that you have to address. Now let's say you had toilets. What if people are not using it? In fact, if you have seen, long studies show that what, in a lot of villages, they use it as godowns. They construct, there will be a toilet, they use it as to put something there. Because if you ask them, they'll tell, for a long time we are used to going out, morning by we will go there, and that is one of the reasons. Second reason is that, sir, you have constructed a toilet, there is no water there, what should I do? So because it looks like a very simple issue. For middle class urban areas we will not feel it, but in villages it's a very huge issue, especially in north central Indian states, all of that. Then they realize, okay, we have this, but our focus has been on this, we have neglected, hence let's focus on the outcome. That's why if you have observed in Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, behavioral change is the biggest focus. Behavioral change means what? You should convince the people to make use of those toilets. Because a lot of people associate means what? I mean, not in general it is associated that what do you call this, sanitation means pollution. Pollution means it should not associate, it should not be in our homes. That's why now things are changing. If you have observed, largely even in villages, where will you have toilets? Toilets will be somewhere not associated with main house. They'll construct it outside the building. Now in urban areas, attached bathroom, although you have, in urban area, rural areas, it will be largely outside. Because the reason is what? It should not be, it's a pollution, it should not be linked to our house. Especially it will be as far as from the, what do you call this, the kitchens and all those things. That angle, that you have to change. That's why the focus on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is on outcome. Whatever Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Manmohan Singh, they largely focus on what? Because you did not have toilet. That's also important. See, how can you achieve outcome if there is no output? You want to improve literacy rate, agreed. How will you improve literacy rate if there is no school only? If school building is not there, how will you improve literacy? Correct. But the counter aspect is what? You have schools. If there are no teachers, how will you improve literacy then? That's why output was a larger focus for a long time. Now in the recent 10-15 years, we have shifted to where? Outcome. Understood? That's why that is called as outcome budgeting. Means we are allocating money linked to your outcome. So if you achieve better outcome, next time we'll give you more money. Outcome matters for us now. Right? That's a very detailed one. Then there is something, if you have heard, called as zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting means largely in whatever I told you, line item budgeting, what will they tell? If you have heard the concept called as demand for grants. Fine, let's say last year they give you 2 lakh crore for defense ministry. What will this year they'll task? Sir, last year you have given 2 lakh crore, adding the inflation, this, that, everything, give me 10,000 crore more. So you will ask 2.1 lakh crore, 2.2 lakh crore. That is called as line item budgeting. That's why they call it as incremental budget. Increment means what? Whatever you have given me last year, what you do? Add something to it and give it to me. Zero based means what? Don't ask me 2 lakh crore directly. How are you taking 2 lakh crore as granted? Just because last year I gave you 2 lakh crore, why should I give you more than that this year? Now first you convince me, how did you make use of the 2 lakh crore? If you don't convince me, I may reduce the 2 lakh to 1 lakh crore also. Means don't start from 2 lakh crore now. What do you do? Go back, for each and every rupee of the 2 lakh crore, give me accounts. If I am convinced that okay, you are able to spend, then what I will do? Then I will start giving from zero. Don't start from 2 lakh crore, then start from where? Start from zero. Every single rupee you have to convince me now. Convince me means convince the finance minister, convince the boss, whatever the finance leaders of the companies, whatever. That is zero based budgeting, means you start from zero, don't start from the last year's 2 lakh crore, don't start from there. That is technically called as zero based budgeting. We have to go in detail, how did it start, why did they start that, how is it better compared to line item budgeting, but what are the challenges of zero based budgeting? It's not so easy to implement in retail. That is another way, that's all theory, we'll just do it later. There is something called as gender based budgeting, means for a long time a lot of people criticized that most of the lawmakers are what, you take Indian context only, even today it is 14%, means imagine most of the lawmakers are what, men. So that's why there was a larger criticism that what, men are making the budgets, men are making the laws, men are making the policies. Obviously they'll think largely about what, men's need, means one gender's need. Women's need was largely neglected. That's why they came up with a project called as gender-based budgeting. Now look at the word gender-based means here the focus is on whom then? Women. Women-based needs. And so this is the overall budgeting types we have to focus. If you have heard, we Beti Bachao, Beti Pajao, 100% focused on girl children need. Nirbhaya Fund, 100% women's security. Now those are all gender-based budgeting result. In polity we don't tell this. This is based on the theory aspect called as gender-based budgeting. Australia started it first. India has also borrowed from it. You have started 2004, 2005, almost 20 years back only we started gender-based budgeting, outcome budgeting also. But in practice it is largely even today what? Line item budget. Now this is all part of a chapter called as financial administration. This is all paper 1. Imagine largely whatever I told you now. Fine. Paper 2 is largely what in PubAd? Indian administration. For example, the first one, probably tomorrow we'll start with that Indian administration. That's why today I took it as a word, largely to understand, okay, what all is public administration, theory aspect, thinkers. Fine. Over a period of, if you have heard, I mean, again, you will get to know gradually, there are the aspects like NPA, NPM, so many things are there. Fine. Arthashastra, Kautilya. Kautilya talks a lot about administration. Fine. Kautilya never talks about democracy. Kautilya only talks about what? Monarchy. Understood? He says that what? Always, what do you call as this? Men should rule and people of the noble birth should rule. Noble birth means largely I was talking about the Varna system. Kshatriya clan should rule. Varna, maintaining Varna system should be the goal. He uses words like, if you have heard, remember even in polity I tell you, Matsya Nyaya. Matsya Nyaya means what? In general, big fish will dominate small fish, rich will dominate poor. He says you should escape from that Matsya Nyaya. If you want to go away from it, then what do you need? You need a king. That's what he says, Kautilya says in Arthashastra, people chose Manu as their king. That is what exactly later people like this Thomas Hobbes, everybody gave it as what? Social contract theory. But Kautilya was not a thinker, he was largely talking about how to run the system. Yoga Kshema, he says, if you have heard, famously uses the word called as Yoga Kshema, Paripalana, Rakshana, means the role. See, again, just to understand broadly, again, tomorrow we'll start with Indian administration, I mean the theory aspect. Arthashastra today means what actually? Actually, Arthashastra means today is called as what? Economics. But when he used the term Arthashastra long back, 2500 years back, it was not economics. It is about welfare. Anything that is required about anything that deals with the welfare of the society, welfare of the human being, that is Arthashastra. Fine? Overall welfare, well-being. Today, Arthashastra means economy. Because it has the definition has changed. When he gave, it's a bit different one. So that is one angle. If you have heard, remember that for a corruption we keep telling about him. What is the corruption? Very famous statements Kautilya says. Civil servant is like a fish in water. Fine, you will never get to know how much water does a fish drink. Similarly, you will never get to know how much corruption does a civil servant get involved in. That's why Kautilya in Arthashastra identified 40 types of corruption. Understood? He famously used to tell that what? You should pay your civil servants well. He said because if you don't pay them well, they very high chance they'll what? Corrupt the entire system itself. Even today we follow, that is technically we call it as today, that any organization should take care of the socio-economic welfare of their employees. Very simple example. Imagine a secretary of a ministry will be handling 100 crore, 1000 crore sometimes. His salary is 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh. Just imagine the difference. You are handling 1000 crore, even if you have become DC, on an average 100 crore budget you will have with you for your district. Your salary is 80,000 rupee. Where is 80,000 rupee? Where is 100 crore? Obviously, imagine what will be your, it's like what? You are incentivized to get corrupt. Because what will you feel? I have so much of money with me and they are paying me 70,000 rupee, 80,000 rupee. Obviously what will happen, because your socio-economic status is not good, means you are not paid well, all of that, but you are given a lot of power. You have a lot of rules. Obviously what will you do? You will play with the rules so that they have to pay you. In other words, corruption. That is the reason Kautilya long back said 1/4 of the entire government's revenue budget should be used to pay their civil servants. Make sure that they are taken care of, socio-economic well-being. If you don't take care of their well-being, high chances. Understood? Even he says famously something called as Saptanga theory. Mandala, have you heard something called as Mandala theory? What Kautilya says? Mandala theory is famously called as the international relations, foreign policy of Kautilya. Very famous words he says. He says that what? That no two neighbors can be friends. Never trust your neighbor, he says. Because one or other time they will always take benefit out of you. Kautilya also famously says that always make friendship or relation, means country wise he is telling, with strong countries. At that time country concept was not there, empires, because they will come to your help. Fine. And he also says that especially one or other neighboring country will always be a threat to you. Fine. And be cautious about them. Whenever given a chance, Kautilya says, suppress them. That's what famously, if you have heard, they call it as Sama, Dama, Veda, Dhanda. That's what Kautilya's famous one. You might have heard those words. Sama, Dama, Veda, Dhanda. Sama means, he says, first you try to talk to them and deal the issue. Country wise. That is Sama, negotiation, dialogue. Let's say they don't listen. Dama. Dama means what? Try to give them some offer. Like let's say Pakistan is not listening to you. What do you try to do? You try to give them some kind of an offer saying that what, okay, I will reduce so and so soldiers in the border, you reduce so and so soldier. I'll help you in some other issue. Try to deal with them through an offer. Let's say they don't agree. Use Veda. Veda means what? Tell US to put pressure on Pakistan. Tell United Nations to put pressure on Pakistan. Tell Russia to put pressure on Pakistan. That is called as, or what you do? You raise Baluchistan issue. India will raise that, if you have seen. Whenever Kashmir issue Pakistan raises, we raise Baluchistan issue. That means, okay, Pakistan will realize then, okay, fine. If I try to play with Kashmir, they'll try to play with Baluchistan. Let's compromise. That's Ved. Let's say they don't listen to that. Then comes your Dand. Dand means what? That's when you have to go for surgical strike or war or anything. So that is 4 stages, he says. And then so many ideas he identifies. For example, even today, that's a very famous question if you have observed in, I think 2023 they have not asked, that Kautilya's ideas on international relation is more relevant today than ever. Understood? Actually it is true also. Whatever he says in international relation, even today we follow. Understood? He says be cautious about your neighbors, especially a big territory who has the expansional tendencies, means he is referring to China kind of a tendencies. Means be cautious about China because they have a tendency to what? To be more aggressive, to expand their empire, to expand their power. Be cautious about them and make friends with strong people like US. See, India always maintains good relationship with US because what? Because if China comes to attack us, we can't defend by ourselves. You need whose help then? We need US help. That's why he says make friendship with strong neighbors. I mean strong countries, empires. They should come to your help because you can't defend yourself so easily. Right? Like that, so many are there. What do you call it? We call it as Vijigishu, we call it as Ari, so many keywords they use. That's all not necessary here. When you do Mandala theory, we talk about that. Saptanga theory, Mandala, they are all Kautilya's angle. Then if in case you might have heard in your, which one? Akbar, medieval era, ancient medieval India, they might have discussed something called as Mansabdari. Mansabdari system is what we have to study under Mughal. Then British era, British is a very detailed one that all we'll discuss later. Fine. And PSUs we study in detail, planning commission we study in detail in paper 2, civil service concept, to be more precise, district collector concept, how did it evolve? Fine. If you have heard, British actually collector concept or DC concept actually evolved in 1772 by Lord Warren Hastings. That means imagine how old is it? That is when the idea started, district collector concept. Over a period of time it has changed a lot. Fine. If you have heard during British era, there used to be very famous statements. If you have heard Ramsay MacDonald, one of the famous British PMs, used to say that what? Nothing should happen in a district, even a sparrow should not die without it coming to the notice of DC. That doesn't mean actually sparrow should not, means what does it indicate? It indicates that DC should have the pulse, DC should have information about each and everything that happens in the district. Now they also famously says that DC is like a tortoise who carries the load of an elephant on his back. Means he is actually like a tortoise, but entire load of an elephant you are putting on him. This is all British, because anything they did during British era, who has to implement? DC has to implement. Even during largely pre-1991 also it was like that. He was famously called as Little Napoleon. Have you heard that Little Napoleon means what? Napoleon is like a dictator. He is like a little Napoleon. My Baap Sarkar. Imagine how many descriptions are there. So those are all called as DC during British era. That was called as, technically we call as ruling bureaucracy. Means bureaucracy itself was ruling, because what we did not have? There was no democracy. When you don't have democracy, you don't have people's representatives. That means who is the decision maker then? Bureaucrats are the decision makers. Ruling bureaucracy era. So that's why, have you heard, they keep telling like superiority feeling, elite mindset of bureaucracy they tell. Means even today, the moment you, just to understand why I keep telling that also, let's say you are here now, let's say you get into this list, you go to Lamasna and come back, automatically you will get a superiority feeling. Sir, I will not get it. It doesn't matter. You will, there is inherent, because they train you like, they groom you like that okay, you are a leader, you are going to be, they'll tell you in so many times that automatically you start feeling, okay, I am a superior now. Automatically that elite mindset, elite means what? That I am someone above common man. That is called as colonial legacy, because British were told the same things for a long time. That you are a leader, you are automatically when you say that, they'll maintain the difference. That's why if you observe, normally when someone especially gets into central service or all India service, of course things are changing now because demography itself is changing. For a long time they'll maintain that social psychological distance from common man. Means psychological distance means what? You can't so easily interact with the common man. You have to maintain the distance, because British had maintained that kind of an attitude. That attitude continues. Things are changing in the last 20-30 years for simple reason. Those who are getting into civil service are mostly today not from the higher class, middle class, lower middle class. Fine. For a long time what used to happen, civil service was the only opportunity. Especially pre-1991, imagine where is the only opportunity is IAS. If you have heard, that's why they keep telling that kuch bhi bano, UPSC tayari karo. That was a very famous slogan for a long time. Means whatever you do, finally you will come back to where? UPSC. Even now it is there, but things have changed a lot now, because there are a lot of opportunities now. So hence what happens, the major high class what you have, mostly they may not come into civil service now. Who are mostly the people who prepare? You look at yourself. Mostly the people who prepare are what? Largely 80-90% is what? Civil servants. Of course, people of civil servants also prepare, but that era is also more or less gone. Like a foreign secretary's son now will not aspire to again prepare for civil services. That era was there. Jai Shankar's son, if you don't know, Jai Shankar's father was also an IFS officer. No, Jai Shankar's son? No. Because they will have their own aspiration. Ajit Doval's son? No. Because they'll have some other aspirations. So that means demography of people who get into civil service is changing. Demography means what? Who are the people who are getting into bureaucracy? Largely it is middle class and rural, or what do you call this district. Automatically the value system is changing. Understood? For a long time it was elite. Now it is relatively becoming more favorable for common man. Those are all in detail we have to study. How is it all of that? That is again administration part. Police, if you have observed, see, as I told you, for a long time we did not have police in India. Only we had what? Army. Even during Mughal era, police concept was not there. Right, from Maurya era to Mughal era, policing was not there. Everything was done by whom? Army. It was after 1857 war. Remember we keep telling 1857 revolt, Sepoy mutiny. That is when British realized, okay, probably if you had something like a police, maybe we could have prevented 1857 revolt. That is when they realized it. That's why they created, we'll understand, Royal Irish Constable system. That's a very famous slogan. We have two systems of police. British had two systems of police. One is called as London Metropolitan System. Second one is Royal Irish Constabulary System. Means one kind of policing they implemented in Ireland. And if you don't know history, Ireland was also a colony of England. Now logically you think, in a colony, will they implement a system of police which is more friendly to people, or which will suppress people, or which will be more strict? Suppress. That is Royal Irish Constabulary system. So that's why two phrases we use. In UK they implemented a police wherein police is considered, public is police, police is public. In UK police was considered as a service. In Ireland whatever they implemented, police was considered as a force. Force means what? Force means you have to use violence, you have to suppress people. In India also when British implemented police, it was not what considered as a service, it was considered as what? Force. Means what is the role of police during British era? Anybody if they try to go against British, what do you have to do? Arrest them, suppress them. Collect all the intelligence, maintain law and order. Nobody should disturb the system. Now look at the word, now we call it as, if you don't know, during British era it was called as IP, Imperial Police. Look at the word service is also not there. Post independence we renamed it as IPS, Indian Police Service. It's not a force, it's a service now. But the criticism is that you have added the word service, but even largely today police is not a service, it is today also what? Force. Means police are trained in such a way that even today, I mean anywhere you go, that they are trained that the moment, police are trained in such a way that the moment you go, common man should fear you. That's why if you have observed police, how do they behave? The moment they put their police uniform, the attitude itself is different. They'll look at you as what? Someone who, the moment you look at it, you should be okay sir, fine, I'll change the street, I'll go somewhere else. Like how you look at, the moment you look at traffic police, what will you do? So that means actually that is called as Royal Irish Constabulary system. Means common man is, we are tuned in such a way that the moment you look at police, what is our common man's attitude? As far as possible, reduce the interaction with him. Don't get caught by him. Because we are trained like that. Society, I mean the value system itself is tuned like that. Because we are perceiving them as a force. We are not perceiving them as a service. See, for example, if anything action, actually what we have to do, we have to go to them, talk to them, get the information. But imagine for a middle class person, even today to go to a police station, they'll think at least 5 to 10 times. Should we go or not? Should we file the complaint or not? Because if you go and file the complaint, a lot of people think that what? Oh, okay, you are stuck now. That's why what they try to do, they'll try to settle it as far as possible without going to police. If you don't have an option, then you can't do. Then you have to choose it. Because this is all legacy of what you call as colonial, feudal, imperial, force mindset legacy of the British era police. Called as Royal Irish Constabulary system. Though we today have so many things, you might have heard police reforms, so many are there, Dharamvira Commission, Violio Reboro, this, that, so many. Have you heard a word called as community policing? Community policing means people and police should work together. That's why community policing. Rather than police maintaining all the system, you cannot expect police to be everywhere. You practically assume how many police will be there. Bangalore itself has 1.5 crore people. Will you put 1.5 crore police to guard 1.5 crore people? You cannot expect police to be everywhere. It's impossible. That's why who should act like police? People only should act like police. Police means what? Not going and arresting. Means what? You should be more proactive, vigilant, informative. If we and police are more closer, what we can do? Whatever information, that's why in UK, in US, they have a very famous slogan after 9/11 attacks. If you see something, they tell, say something. This is a slogan they use after 9/11 attacks in US. The moment you see something suspicious, what do you have to do? Inform. Their number itself is 9/11, 9/11 because of the 9/11 attacks. If you see something, say something. Anywhere, let's say you're going in a metro, you're going in a railway, you're in a bus stop, or you're in some, you see something suspicious, you should inform them. That is called as community policing. So this is all one ways. So like that, so many are there. We'll discuss that. Long corruption in detail we have to discuss. And polity part, whatever you have, right from constitution, fundamental rights, parliament, federalism, all of that is some, at least you can assume 1/3 or almost 40% of your paper 2 is polity. Exactly what you study in polity. I'm assuming most of you polity has done, right? Federalism, parliamentary system, judiciary, center-state relation, panchayat raj, municipality, all of them is entirely copy-paste in PubAd. 40% is same. 60% is what? Kautilya, IAS in detail, because IAS in detail we don't study in polity. We only tell All India Service something like that. Here in detail, whatever I told you police, why will we study that in detail in polity? Not necessary. Here we have to study in detail. Assured. And there are few other issues also that all we have to discuss in detail in paper 2. Paper 1 is not directly linked to, because paper 1 in any subject you take is theory only. You take PSIR, you take sociology, anything, anthropology also, theory part will be paper 1. Fine. And again I am telling you about the, what do you call as this, because most of you may have to still think about the which one should choose, all those things. First point again I am clarifying, the moment you take, various factors will matter to take an optional. Again I am just clarifying because a lot of students still have a doubt. One is what? One is, do you have, most important actually it is, do you have an aptitude towards the subject? Aptitude means what? Interest kind of a one. Because few people were asking last time that, sir, my background is BA, can I opt for anthropology? It is very difficult for you to, what do you call it, this shift from arts mindset to anthropology, not so easy. Sir, but still I can adjust. You may, I am not saying no, but chances are very less. Because backgrounds are different. It's not so easy to adjust. Largely because it's directly, for example, if you ask, what do you call as this, MBBS student to directly shift to LLB, how will it feel? It's not so easy. Probably engineering is the only branch where they can shift anywhere, because engineering study itself is like that, where 4 years you will only watch movies and all those things, and you get trained in such a way that you can study anything. Engineers may do MBBS much better than MBBS also probably, because they are tuned like that. So that's why engineers can choose any optional. Actually they can choose any optional, but if you leave them, others is a bit difficult. For example, as I told, BA, BCom, directly choosing anthro is not so easy. So that's why aptitude you have to understand. 1, interest. 2, second most important is, as I told, graduation. Okay, is there a link to your graduation? If there is a link to your graduation, let's say for example, sir, I have done my MA in sociology, better sociology. I don't even have to tell. So let's say for example, I have done BCom, MCom, high chances one or other way, or let's say BBM, MBA, you would have studied about this organization or thinkers one or other way. So that means there is a kind of overlap. Sir, but then I have studied I have done MA in history. Obviously, best optional, best choice for you is for what? History. I have done MA in political science. Better you take political science. You should not shift then. After doing MA in political science, sir, but then I think anthropology is scoring better, I'll choose. It will not work like that, because your mind will be tuned for a long time. So that is second important aspect is what? What is your graduation? Third is what? Well, let's say for example, how much of overlap is there between optional and GS? Sir, is it a very important factor? Not very important factor, but still it matters. For example, once you study PubAd, GS paper 2, almost 60-70% same. Fine. GS4, which on ethics, second half of ethics, copy paste. First half of ethics is a bit different. If in case ethics is done for you, they'll talk about what values, honesty, emotional intelligence, role of family, role of society. That we don't study. But there is second half ethics which deals with ethics in administration. Ethics in administration is nothing but what? Public administration. So second half of ethics paper is linked. You can say 2/3 of PubAd, this GS2, except which one? International. Remember in GS2, if you have seen the GS2 main syllabus, you have constitution part, you have governance part, you have social justice part, you have IR part. International relation and PubAd is not linked. That you leave out. International relation is what? 4 questions out of 20, means 250 mark out of 250 mark. The other 200 mark. To an extent, social justice also is a overlap. 160, 170 mark of GS2, you will have a overlap. Almost 125 marks of ethics will have a overlap. Not exactly copy paste. What do you have to do? Whatever you study here, we study in depth and thinkers. When you write in GS, what do you do? You should not write thinkers there. You should not use keywords there. What do you have to only use? You should use the concepts there. Because In general, GS papers are not corrected by your scholars. Anybody can correct. But let's say PubAd paper, who will correct? PubAd professors will correct. Political science papers, political science scholars will write. Let's say you study political science. If you keep writing about Thomas Hobbes, all of them in GS2, they'll directly strike off, because why are you writing this? In GS2 you have to write more about what? Constitution, fundamental rights, federalism, center state, you have to write that. If you bring theories there, it will not work. You have to make it layman in GS. You have to make it theory in optional. Concept is same, the way you write is bit different. Understood? That is which one? Overlap with the GS part. Then the fourth, fifth factors is what? What is the syllabus? How much is the, what do you call it, the syllabus kind of a one? Faculties, is it available or not? Peer group, is it available or not? All of that also you have to take. For example, let's say for example you are from civil engineering, mechanical engineering background. Sir, is it better for me to opt? You can opt, provided you have to be aware about the challenges. First point, syllabus is very, very high. It's not whatever you study in 4 years of engineering, everything you have to study here. Automatically what will happen to syllabus? Syllabus is lengthy. Automatically what will happen again? Making notes and short notes is not so easy. See, after GS4 to optional, you will have 4 days of gap. In 4 days, you should be able to revise your optional at least 2 times, sometimes 3 times. If you want to revise your optional 2 to 3 times, if you have 1000 pages of notes, when will you revise? Is it possible humanly? Impossible. That means what? Your syllabus should be in such a way that you should be able to make short notes easily. For PubAd kind of an optional, I am not telling only PubAd, sociology, PSR, all of them, you can make your paper 1 short notes. I am not telling directly first round. Short notes means when will it happen? 3, 4, 5 rounds of revision. You can write entire PubAd short notes in 100 pages. 100 sheets, paper 1 done. 100 sheets, paper 2 done. Automatically you can revise 2 to 3 times. If you have 1000 page, all of those things, when you will revise? That doesn't mean you can't make short notes in mechanical engineering or civil engineering or physics. But what is the amount of effort you put is very high. And another biggest loophole of those science subjects is what? Let's say you study so many things in mechanical civil engineering. Will they ask any of those things in your GS, in your ethics, in your essay? Can you write about mechanical engineering concept in your ethics or essay? No overlap. Even after all these things, the biggest advantage of science-based subject is what? Relatively, you have a chance of getting 10 to 20 marks more. For simple reason, they are all what? Science-based subjects. Whenever it is science-based subject, what is the advantage? There is no subjectiveness. You just have to prove it, you will get your marks. Understood? That's why you have the 10 marks, 20 marks advantage, provided you should be able to tackle what? Other challenges also. So that's why if you have seen, a lot of people don't opt. But even and another one is what? You will not have any peer groups here. Very rarely people will choose. No faculties will be there. You can get it reviewed. And it's not that challenges if you can handle. Only then think about mechanical engineering, civil engineering kind of a one. Or physics or botany or zoology. Or anything. Sir, I am from BCom, MCom background. Can I choose? I think you have an optional called as accountancy and management or something. It's commerce and accountancy. Don't even think about it. It's not so easy. What we study in normal BCom, MCom and what you study for an optional, there is no link. No link in the sense what? Because normal BCom, MCom, how will you study? You ask yourself, how do you study? It's fine. So that and you bring it here, don't even think. It's not even linked. Lot of effort you have to put. And then other biggest one. Sir, then they say, for I don't know how, somehow people, everybody have believed that, sir, if I take sociology, I'll get 300. Who told you that? There's a lot of students who have assumed that. I mean, people have told, sir, they are telling that you will get. Honestly, I am telling no optional will give you that. If you are still falling in that marketing myth, even though I am doing optional, I am telling no optional will give you directly 300. Impossible. Only 250 to 260 any optional will give you, provided you complete the paper and do all those things. Sir, when will you get 300 then? It depends on your hold on the subject. If you have observed last, let's say you go look at last 5 years toppers, top 10 ranks, you will have all the optional. Last year I think was PSR topper, before that was Anthro, before that was probably in 2020 was PubAd, Before that was, I think, mathematics, someone was there. History was there, Shruti Sharma, I think before this year. So that means what? Any optional you will have the chance. It doesn't depend on the optional. It depends on your hold on the optional. Individuals. All of a sudden someone will get 320. Like for example, 2022, I mean, Pavard did not get rank 1, but there was a Nupur Goyal, there was a person who cleared, right? She got rank 11 or something. She had got 305 or 306, exact marks I forgot. It was highest in any optional combined last year, 2 years before in Pabad. But what? It's an exception. Even though it is Pabad only, I am telling it's an exception. Fine? It depends on that individual. That doesn't mean that, sir, you take Pabad, you will take 300. It's a myth. I will not tell that. Even though I can't tell you, just to convince you, I can't tell you, take Pabad, you will get 300. Take sociology, you will get 300. Please don't fall for the trap. It is never true. 260 to 280 is your optional guaranteed. And in the last 3-4 years, yeah, honestly, what has happened? For a long time, if you know the UPSC history in the last 20-25 years, Pabad and geography are the most successful optionals, especially till 2012-2013. When the new syllabus started in 2013, 2 to 3 years, both Pabad and optional were relatively down. From 2016, Pabad has come back to normalcy. Unfortunately, geography is still relatively low only. 2016 to 2020, Anthro was relatively scoring better. From 2020 post-COVID, if you have seen, last 3-4 years in fact, almost all the optionals are of same range. Any optional you take, 260 to 70 is average, 300 is highest. Sir, someone got 320, yes, that person was an exceptional person. Optional was not exceptional. If optional was not exceptional, why did not everybody get 300 plus? If anthropology was exceptional, why all the top 10 in toppers are not anthropology? If sociology was exceptional, why all the top 10 are not sociology optionals? So it is not optional there. It is that one person who had an extraordinary hold on the subject. That day, that year, everything worked for him or her. Fine. So based on that, you realize, because I've heard that everybody is telling somehow it's a wave. It's like how Narendra Modi wave is there. It's like a wave. It's a hurt, because largely we are like that. If one group shift, entire group shifts. Fine. So don't directly take that. So consider all the factors and realize, because most of you are still might be thinking about the things. That's why I'm just clarifying. And any optional, I'm telling you, you can say 2/3 to 70% questions are repeat. Every year it is repeat. Last year, if I'm paper 1, 28 questions you will have. Means if you know how the syllabus, question paper is set, right? For optional, if you don't know, because GS is directly easy. Let's say, for example, you have paper 1. Under that, what you will have? Section A. In Pabad section A, you will have total in Pabad, paper 1 has 12 chapters, 12 units. Now divide. Section A, 6 chapters. Section B, 6 chapters. That is how it is. Under that, question number 1 will be what? 1A, B, C, D, E. All of them, how many marks? 10 marker. This is compulsory. You have to write it. More or less every optional as of now is same, but there is small changes. Then you will have question number 2. A, B, C. Normally it is 20, 20, 10, or it can be, it depends. Then 3, same pattern. 3, 4, same pattern. Whatever it is there, same pattern you have to repeat. Fine, that is compulsory, you have no option. Same concept you have to apply for what? Question number 5, section B, 6 chapters. 5, 6, 7, 8. Same thing. 1 and 5 are compulsory, you have no option, you have to mandatorily write it. 2, 3, 4, minimum 1 you have to write. Let's say you wrote 3. Then out of 5, said not 5, 6, 7, 8. Minimum 1 you have to write. Let's say you wrote 6. So totally how many you have written? 50 into 4. 1 and 5 is compulsory, 100 marks done. So question number 2 you have written 150. Question number 6 you have written 200. Now out of this 3, 4, 7 and 8 you have to choose 1. Let's say you chose here, fine. Or let's say you can choose here, fine. So 1 each out of this and another one, you decide that. Got an idea or not? Question number 1 and 5 are compulsory and all of them will be what? 10 markers. 10, A, B, C, D, E. Same way, question number 5, A, B, C, D, E. Mandatory, you have to write it. Out of 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, you have to write how many? 3. But 3, you can't write, sir, I'll write 2, 3 and 4, not allowed. Minimum, what you have to write? 1 in other. So, sir, I'll write 2 and 3 and I'll write 7. Okay, fine. I'll write 3, 4 and I'll write 7. Fine. I'll write 6, 7 and then I'll write 3. Fine. So, 1 in each and another extra in whatever you have to choose that. You can't write, sir, I'll write 3 in section B, not allowed. Got an idea, right? That is how it works. In more or less every option, this is how it works. And out of this total, if you count 10 compulsory question and then 3 into 6, 18. So out of 28 questions, you can easily assume 22 to 23 question every year, same topic, same question. But the way they ask is different. For a simple reason, in such a competitive exam, how do you expect same question to repeat? Imagine with an UPSC's legacy then. For topic is every year they'll ask a question on Weber, every year they'll ask a question on Taylor, every year they'll ask a question on Woodrow Wilson. Remember, I have told you just now, every year they'll ask a question on Kautilya. But the way they ask is different. Every year they'll ask a question on DC, absolute mandatory. Every year they'll ask a question on Panchayats. They are all fixed. 22 questions are more or less same topics. In other words, 22 means what? 22 out of 28 means almost 70% you can say. Other things, obviously, they'll play their game. Understood? And as I keep telling, when you write any answer in PubAd, you should not write it as a question number A or, okay, the question is on Taylor, I'll only write about Taylor. No. You should write any question as a PubAd question. Means what? Entire paper 1 and paper 2, you should bring the points. If the question is from, let us, as an example I am telling, if the question is on, there is a topic called as NPA. Now, new public administration. If the question is on NPA, which is paper 1, section A, chapter 1, you should not write only about NPA. You should also write about what? Some other topic in paper 2, you have to link here. That means you should have what then? 360-degree view. If you write it as no sir tsunami, only tsunami I will write. That is all science. In these kind of subjects, 360-degree. Let's say in geography, when you write, let's say if there is a question on earthquake, you will only write about earthquake. Why will you write about cyclone there? Earthquake, earthquake, monsoon, monsoon, because they are all science-based subjects. In humanities, what you have to do? You should have a 360-degree approach. If you write only about it, you will get marks, but it is less than how much? 50%. In optionals, always understand, out of 500, you have a opportunity to score up to 300. In other words, how much percentage of marks? 60% of marks you have a chance. So if you have a 60% of chance, what does that mean? In a 10 marker, they will give you up to 6. In a 15 marker, they'll give you up to 9. In a 20 marker, they can give you up to 12. Understood? Up to 5, they'll easily give you if you address the demand of the question itself. That plus 1 is a challenge. Up to 7 to 8, they'll give you easily just to address the demand of the question. But that plus 1 or 2 depends on what? 360-degree approach. Same. 10 is easy. What is difficult? Plus 2 is the game. Plus 1 or 2 is the game. Plus 1 is the game. So if you get this, as I told, just address the demand of the question properly. Basic language of PubAd use. You will easily get 260. 250 to 260. That's what is 50% of the score. Game is what? To take to 300 means what? In each and every question you have to get that extra. That depends on your hold on the subject. Do you have the 360-degree approach? Sir, obviously in the beginning, how will you get 360-degree approach? It will take a little time. Understood? Fine. So what we'll do is for another 1 or 2 classes, we'll start with few topics because directly I can't start with theory aspects. I'll start with Indian administration, then gradually we'll come back to your theory aspects so that I'll make you get adjusted to the, because it's a new subject, most of you assuming, because you might be from different backgrounds. We'll bring you to the subject gradually. Then we'll go back to the theory. so that you get adjusted, because once for all it should not, you will not get adjusted so easily. And so we'll give a touch, then we'll go back to the theory aspect, because the more you theorize, you will get confused. Understood? So mostly the classes will be from same 7:30 to 10, even tomorrow, probably from the first week. So our first 3-4 classes I'll be handling all the general things. I'll make sure that you get adjusted to the optional. Then few theory aspects, all those things Shalay sir will handle, first 30-40 classes. Then the other aspects, everything, paper 1, second half, paper 2, largely everything. So I'll be handling that. So is any other doubts? I try to give overall brief of the optional. Which reference books? As of now, you don't try to refer too many things. I think that's why I told you in optional, orientation, to refer IGNOU BA Public Administration basic chapters. Introduction chapter. If you have still doubt, please note down. IGNOU BA Public Administration. IGNOU Indira Gandhi National Open University. IGNOU BA Public Administration. And under that, you don't have to buy anything. Online it will be available. eGyan course, so many. IGNOU also has their own website. Introduction chapter. And if possible, Thinkers chapter. Introduction chapter, Thinkers chapter. These two, if you have time, you try to study. Directly now we'll not start with it, because that is theory part. I will deal with Indian administration so that you get adjusted. That is simple one. You don't have to study anything for that. Books are there. If you want to buy, which one? I'll tell the book. You can buy that. Radha Binod Aribam. He's a student like you who I think he's an IAS now. So he has compiled the books. Earlier we used to study so many Fadia, everything. Now remember for Lakshmikant what he has done. D.D. Basu, Upendra Bakshi, this, that, everything he has combined and he had made it as same way. He has combined IGNOU, this, that, everything, and he has written the books. Both for paper 1 and paper 2, you directly buy this. As of now, in the first rounds of revisions, everything study, you should stick to this. After this, if you want to buy, I'll tell you another books. You should not study directly that, because that's more theory based. Mohit Bhattacharya. New Horizons of Administration, they tell, but Mohit Bhattacharya, PubMed. Mohit Bhattacharya. There's also a book called as Mohit Bhattacharya written book. New Horizons of Public Administration. The book name is New Horizons of Administration, PubMed. Radha Binod Aribam is for what? Both 1 and 2, paper 1 and paper 2, Radha Binod Aribam. As of now, just stick to it. Bhattacharya, even if you don't buy it now, it's absolutely fine. There's another book called as Thinkers, Administrative Thinkers, written by Prasad and Prasad. There are a lot of thinkers, lot of writers. They famously called as Prasad and Prasad. Administrative Thinkers. That also, even if you don't buy it now, it's fine, because you can't directly study. It's a very detailed one. That all they have directly given in Aribam. You have to stick to Aribam now. Then there's another book called as Arora and Goel. Ramesh Arora, Rajni Goel, but that is for paper 2. Arora and Goel, Indian Administration, Arora and Goel. Indian Administration by Arora and Goel. That is also paper 2. Arora and Goel, Indian Administration. Fine. But as of now, what do you have to buy only? Only Radha Binod Aribam. All of that later, gradually. Because only specific chapters you have to study from them. You have to only one book you have to refer. Aribam, paper 1 and paper 2. Other ones, extra references. For few chapters only you have to study Aribam, Arora and Goel or Bhattacharya or Prasad. Only few topics you have to study. Which topics? That when we do, obviously I'll tell you over a period of time. Clear? And then IGNOU BA Public Administration, make use of that very well. Download it, anyhow it's available PDFs easily, because in a very simple, remember how you have NCERT topics. Almost that level of easy language they have explained. You will easily understand that. And it's very, very good book. The best source is always IGNOU. Like how for best source in anything is what? NCERT, the best source is IGNOU. As of now, stick to that. Is it clear? Any other doubts related to the, I tried to overall brief because it was a huge one. That's why we did not write anything today. or you might have noted down few, that's left to you, because it was all haphazard. I mean, haphazard means I tried to give overall picture. So you got an idea, I think, I am assuming, like who is the father, why did it start, how is it linked to industrial revolution, how is it linked to US spoil system, British era in Indian context, all of that I have tried to link. Accountability, there are so many other chapters also. Any doubts you guys had about how the syllabus vastness? Actually, syllabus wise it is relatively less only, even if you compare it to PSIR or sociology, relatively syllabus is less only. The biggest challenge, if you have observed about all these three optional, common optional, PABAD, PSIR, sociology, common challenge is what? You have to have a 360-degree hold. That's what they keep telling, you might have heard, they keep telling, sir, the dynamic dynamic means what? You have to have a broader hold on the subject. That will take a little time. That's why they keep telling it's challenging. But other ones, let's say for example, if you study like, let's say, what do you call this, anthro kind of a one, it is not dynamic by definition, because what is it? It's mostly a science one. You by heart, same thing you have to put there. But anthro's biggest challenge is what? You have to by heart so many things. Memory, you should be very, very high memory. And I mean, I don't know, I can't tell, because they'll tell it's very interesting. Largely it's a kind of a what? Static kind of a one. Dead kind of a subject. Because no improvements are there, gradually nothing will. And another biggest challenge, a lot of people keep telling, sir, current affairs, another, I am again clarifying, you don't have to study new current affairs. Whatever current affairs which you normally prepare for what? GS, when you study the same topic, what you have to do? You have to link to PABAD. That is the extra dimension you have to do. Same current affairs, nothing extraordinary. Link here. Women's reservation bill, you have to link here. Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, you have to study there also. That you have to link to law and order chapter here. Fine. Same way, federalism issues, or remember last month, even in PABAD or in polity also we studied, remember that My Tax, My Right campaign of Karnataka government. That you have to study here also. Same, you have to link it here. It's like that. It's not like completely new thing. You have to be smart enough to link. Of course, when we do classes, we'll keep linking. That skill, if you develop, same aspect you have to link it. It's not like completely new. Sir, I am studying already current affairs. Should I study anything extra new current affairs? No extra new. Same current affairs only. But you should have that skill to link. Okay, where can I use this? Which chapter of paper 1? Which chapter of paper 2? Which thinker? That skill you should have. Any other things? Class timings, I think you got an idea. Same, more or less whatever you have today, stick to the same. Really, it's okay. What if you are so silent? What? Is it fine? Okay. Let's end for today. We'll continue from tomorrow. We'll start with few topics of paper 2.